I can't check for the sound right now. I'm going to make this really quick. Hi, everyone out there on the interwebs. It's me, Side Pocket. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201, formerly known as DEFCON 201 or DC 201. We are one of many DEFCON groups across the United States and around the world, all this sorts of craziness. We meet third Friday of every month. This meeting is going to be August 20th, and provided that Delta does not ruin everything across the world and in New Jersey, which is where the 201 number comes from. That's our area code. We will meet up physically there as well as stream virtually. It will be a hybrid meet. If you want to know more information as the new Incent reward, which is a cool way to get cryptocurrency as you watch our stream, you can go visit our website at defcon201.org, which I will post the link of if you can. Geez. Because I'm going to explain why everything's going to be this is going to be, honestly, today, like, you're going to see some cool stuff today, but this is going to be, like, the worst stream. Because I'll put it this way, I was trying to get all the adulting out of the way yesterday, and that didn't happen. But there's our website right there at defcon201.org. We are also doing constant Twitter updates on our Twitter at DEFCON201NJ, on our Instagram, which we're going to be doing a special live stream of at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Just putting that out there at DEFCON201. We're also at DEFCON201 on the host.social incidents of Mastodon. We have our own Onion site. If you're too asked to not go to our website and you want to also see more of our social media, here's our entire social media links all right there in the link tree. And lastly, we have if you like the content that you're going to see today and you want to get notified when we're going to be streaming all this weekend, as well as my show on Sunday, The Master of Unlocking, all of our upcoming shows such as Circuit Breakers, Arch Analytics Perspective, all sorts of specials, and our meetup, you can like, share, and subscribe on Twitch, D Live, and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell to put on all notifications, because YouTube is pants on head stupid. And especially if you're on D Live, follow us, because as you can see with the bar up there, we are 98. We're at 98 followers. We're 2 followers away from unlocking a feature called Cryptocurrency Superstar, in which we could do a lot more with our D-Live channel. Either way, really cool stuff. And if you're on Twitch, stick to the end, because at 4 p.m. we're going to go raid another stream that's streaming DEFCON stuff. So stay tuned for that. If you like any of the content, again, follow us. If you have any questions, we are going to be active in chat. Let us know in chat. Otherwise, keep lurking and keep learning. And the reason why I'm going so fast is not only because I want to get into the keynote that's going on right now, if we're able to load it, but I was trying to get all the adulting out yesterday. Unfortunately, more stuff came out where things happened, and that wasted all my time this morning in order to get other stuff done. So I'm going to warn, similar to the last stream, I'm gonna try to watch as much as I can and comment, but there's probably going to be an hour or an hour and a half or like 30 minutes at a time where I will be in and out of this stream because I have to go and do laundry, I have to go and take a shower, I have to go do a bunch of stuff that I was supposed to do this morning, but unfortunately, due to a bunch of serious, and it's the only way I can describe it, fuck-ups, I wasn't able to get to. The next 2 days will be a lot more stable. I'm going to have my ass here permanently. We're going to stream all the way through with my mug on the screen. So I just want to let you know that if you don't see my image going up and it's just some live stream of one of the activities or something going on at DEF CON, it's because of that. And we're also going to be putting up new notifications on, especially on Sunday, how you can get more involved with our live streams. So lastly, if you're on, we're also streaming on 3 other platforms. We're on PeerTube, which is awesome because it's decentralized, non-censored. There's also elite hackers who are watching our stream on YouTube, but through this platform called Invidious, which is a third-party open source platform for YouTube via Tor. Those are the elite hackers, and this is what I'm getting to. If you're watching on Facebook, I deeply apologize. If you want to communicate us on Facebook, there's an extra step you have to do. Click on that, and you can walk through it. Tool US. Yes, Tool does explain things very well. I'm a member of Tool, the Tool chapter in New Jersey in the United States. They're going to be doing, we might be able to see some of their stuff today. I think we're more going to check out Tool and the Bypass Village on Sunday. But they're doing both the Lockpicking Village that's run by Tool and the Bypass Village. Is having a lot of awesome exclusive virtual only content this year, similar to how it was last year. And so I'm really hyped for that because, I do lockpicking stuff. And I'm Master of Unlocking at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday. Besides the main topic I'm going through, we're going to take a slice out of our time to look at all the lockpicking stuff that was going on at DEFCON all week. So stay tuned to that. Anyhow, we're going to jump to the face screen here. And let's try to see if we can see this this keynote here. So the first talk that's coming up here, I don't know if we're going to see that, but the virtual track is supposed to be HTTP2, the sequel's always worse, whether it's because again, we were supposed to stream earlier and we're supposed to see the whole virtual Dark Tangent intro thing, but that didn't happen, again, because of the adult thing going on. If my co-founder could close the door, that'd be great. And so we're going to check out HTTP2 / the sequel's always worse, because basically, from our perspective, all the virtual tracks is what we're going to be looking at today until 4 p.m. And we're going to also check out some other villages and things like that. So if I can click around, I have a master list here, and let's see which one of these Twitch channels has the talk. Because a bunch of Twitch channels have been activated recently, so we're now going to try to connect to this one. Apparently that one didn't work. So let's try DCTV1. If not, we might have to go in the Discord. I didn't see anything on the Discord at the time, but this was slightly before 1. So we're going to find out. That's for sure. Okay, so something's going live here. Let's see what's here. And I also hope the stream doesn't crap out, because originally I think we were going to set up another computer and pipe this stuff through. But again, all the adulting made us really, really busy. So, let's see. What is going on here? Oh, this is the badge. Well, let's watch how the badges are built for a bit. This will be cool.
So it's a 2-stack, board sandwich, kind of protects most of the components. So hopefully we don't have things getting knocked off and broken this year as much as it has in the past. On the end, you got the 2 USB connectors, and one thing we really wanted was
try reloading the page, but I think
being
it's
able to interact
on
with
their side,
fellow
so let's
attendees,
check.
right? And so there are
it's
6
nice to know the normal
connectors
tracks
to
are
connect
being done by
with.
DCG TV.
Little side
so
ones.
I guess everything's mostly
you can just
virtual.
connect real quick and it'll
that gives us more options.
do some challenge stuff.
Let me try to reload this, because I don't think it's on our end, but we'll find out.
I don't know if any of you have tried that yet. I've heard some beeping out there. It's awesome. I'd love to hear it.
Brings us great.
Worst comes to worst, if it chugs too hard, I might be able to bring it in as a weird-ass browser element that we just have to make do with, but we're going to find out.
You want to talk about anything?
Sure. So when it came to designing this, we're like, he had the great idea. He's like, wouldn't it be fun if it was a USB cable? And we did he did a lot of the research because he's amazing. He found these cables and we're like, that would be kind of fun. That would be something that hasn't been done before. I haven't seen it at any con. I don't know if anyone else has.
Yeah, shout out to the SS Devs from Germany. We have a lot of rivalry between the United States and Germany. I checked them out during
when we found
the
it,
CCC, and that was really cool.
It definitely clinched the fact that we were going to do USB-C as well. And now we made it so that we can have social distancing-ish with connecting of the badges as well.
Well, and that, I think it was what, C versus micro.
Yeah. And this was our deciding factor, I think, was the lanyard that we found.
Durability? Yeah, talk about the cost versus the durability.
Yeah, so USB-C connectors obviously way more durable, but they're a lot more expensive. But in the last couple years, prices have come down a lot. And so we can just about get USB-C connectors from overseas for the same price as micro USB we can get here. So that really helped this year. We really wanted to do 2 USB-C connectors for the daisy chaining, but we could only get the lanyards in A to C. So that was our decision there. So for those of you who are curious, like I was, they sent me a sample lanyard and I immediately opened it up to see what's inside. So you don't have to open your lanyards. This is what's in there. I mainly wanted to see if it was like a flexible circuit board type cable, which I really didn't want because they're not reliable and they break. So this is more like what's inside headphone wires and what runs through the badge. Yeah, so this was the sample they sent me didn't have data lines, just power.
But these ones have data lines.
Yep. All right, Jeff kind of already talked about this, but yeah, we
made the funny joke, wouldn't it be funny someday if we did the DEFCON badge? And then he comes up to me and he's like, hey, they're doing a call for badge makers. Do you want to do it? And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Just for clarification, the Netherlands is
Yeah,
OG
sure, we
tool.
won't get picked.
We're
Let's do
basically
it. It'll be
spin-off of
funny.
the
It'll be a fun story to say
Netherlands
we
tool in the
applied
US.
once. We got on the call and we were kind of in starstruck because we're like, we are talking to Jeff Moss. This is cool. We got this. We'll be fine. The stages of going through it was exciting and exhilarating and definitely challenged us as badge makers. We had to think of things that we've never had to think before, and I don't know, it was enjoyable. It was stressful because like, holy crap, this is happening. But we really enjoyed the process.
Yeah, so the call for badge designers went out early February. We got called at the end of February and started that process, which took about a month. So this was our timeline. March 24th to August 4th, 4 months and 11 days. For context, normal badge design is double that. 6 to 9 months is normal for a small conference.
Man, they were on the wire
So that
with
means
that.
he
Holy
had
crap,
4
it's
months
amazing
to
they
put
came out as
this
good
together.
as they did.
Yeah.
So I think you did great.
All right, so when we got picked March 24th, it happened to be that we were going on vacation. The next morning we left and drove out to Mississippi to see her family. And so this is me in my mother-in-law's house designing a badge.
Sorry, it's hard to go between the two here, but no, that they were on the wire for designing those badges. It's amazing that they came out as good as they did, so congratulations to them.
So we were trying to find which controller we were going to use, and I was like, all right, go to buy it. And he's like, it's not there anymore. Son of a... So...
Yeah, we went through, I think, 4 different microcontrollers. We'd pick one that would work, it was available, we'd start designing a prototype, and then it was gone before we could get boards back. So in the end, we picked one that we're like, yeah, it's got enough pins and memory, and it should work, and we just bought them without trying it. So it worked out, right? So
we really wanted something that could kind of tessellate. Was that the word I wanted?
Yes.
Yeah, words are hard. So we played with several different ideas. I really ended up, for me, I loved the squares, as you can tell, because that's what we ended up with. We thought about doing a circle. We thought about just doing square, like little rectangles. But I loved the idea of the Cubert thing where you could connect them and make whatever shape you kind of wanted.
And it looks kind of 3D-ish.
Yeah, without having to do that.
So this is our initial prototype. It didn't come out looking like we wanted it to.
No.
We did kind of the stretched out letter thing that you could kind of see sideways, and it was all right, but the solder mask didn't have enough resolution, and it was kind of not so great.
The consistency wasn't there for what I wanted.
Yeah.
Some of the more, just a few of the ideas that we came through. This was our second prototype. We decided to change and get rid of the bare board.
So let's talk about keycaps. These, you know what I'm talking about?
We planned this well, can you tell? So we had a keycap that we wanted.
Planning at DEFCON? That doesn't exist.
Remove the top and put different kind of legends in. We really wanted that idea. We found a.
And you had your idea for the DEFCON program. If you notice, you have your artwork in
Yes.
the program where you can tell them about.
So we wanted to be able to change it. So we made our own little legends that are in the program. If you see them, you can cut them out, use them then if you want. Also, you can design your own, share them with us. I would love to see what you come up with. I love to see other people's art. So we had a buyer, or not a buyer, we were the buyers. We had a distributor, and we got to the point where he had sent us some examples. We were really happy with them. And then we were going to go buy them, and they disappeared.
Yeah, we never heard from them again. So
So-
I don't know if we scared them or what happened, but that was about 2 months before the conference. So
And
yeah, we couldn't get them from anyone else. We contacted dozens of makers for keycaps, and they either couldn't get them to us in time.
like
for-
November,
Yeah, crazy amounts of time, or they wanted crazy amounts of money for them, like on the order of $1 a keycap. Just crazy amounts of money. So we did some quick math and decided that we could print them.
welcome to our army.
So yeah, we bought an army of resin printers, and the last 2 months we have been printing every day for hours.
An army of printers is the last thing that people in Linux ever want to hear. And thank you, David Hobbs, for following us on Twitch.
We have 7, Kit, Steve, Kaylee, Kevin.
Dave,
Dave.
Jarvis.
Yeah. So that way, if one was acting up, we could be like, hey, Kaylee's being a jerk. Please go deal with her. We also named our vats so that we knew which ones were acting up or not. So we named them after the 7 dwarves, like Snow White and the 7 dwarves. So we had 7 of them. I was like, what's 7? We can do dwarfs. That way we could keep them in track and know which one's being a jerk and which one needed a new film. And I learned so much more about printing than I ever thought. And we also halfway, about a month into printing, we decided he asked if we could add more. And because we were printing them, we were able to add 3,000 more badges to our build. Otherwise,
Thank you, Penteract, for following us on Twitch. We very much appreciate it. I know much is not going on right now, but we'll get into more stuff later.
this is Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin was the first printer, and we learned a lot of things: what works, what doesn't, how to clean resin prints in mass. It's way different than trying to clean one at a time. By the way, the green stuff doesn't work.
It turns it green.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our army. We actually have an 8th one.
Is Hal.
Yeah, the screen broke on one of them last week.
And again,
And we
I'm
were
sorry
right at
for
the
any
end.
lag. Tomorrow we're going to have a way better, smoother setup. It's just all the stuff we were supposed to do today didn't happen due to multiple emergencies. So just deal with us for today. The next 2 days will be a lot better, but we're really excited to see all the content here right now. This is really freaking awesome.
Printer.
So this is our process. There's a lot of alcohol involved. For
Then
someone who
they're
doesn't
at
drink
home at DEF CON.
alcohol in my house. So in the first vat, it's kind of milky, or not vat, bucket, I guess I would say. We would do our initial dunk. Leave
A
it
lot
there
of
for like 5
alcohol,
minutes.
and it's
Come into
milky.
the stirring bucket and give them another 5-minute wash. Make sure the flow was consistent. And we originally would let them dry from that point, and then put them in water, put them in the curer, and then lay them out to dry. Well,
Oh,
water
cool!
takes a long
They made these circuits with one of my favorite bands.
completely dry, the resin or the alcohol would turn foggy if we stuck them in water too soon,
Yep.
which is not what I wanted. We wanted a clearer thing. So I one day was like, alcohol's clear. So I was like, hey, we could do this. So we changed the third step into using the alcohol. We have a filter that would filter out all the cured pieces, and we'd cure it in the alcohol, and then it would dry faster on the last stage. We could put them in a bucket.
I also love that they're wearing masks on stage. I don't know if it's because of like the prevent germs on the microphones, but they probably don't have to, but they still did because, them's the rules of doing proper biosecurity, and I think that's just awesome. It allows the congoers to allow them normality, so that should be neat. Might reload the stream in a bit just to kind of catch up with the lag. Audio is coming in perfectly lagless. It's just the video has been all ugh.
And there could have been a lot more. So we created a device to separate the resin from the alcohol.
It worked great.
It does work.
I did not expect said device would be so easy to make.
So yeah, we were able to reclaim about 75% of the alcohol that we used.
Which saved a lot in cost.
Got a ton of money. And what's left in that afterwards is this gelled resin
Gelatinous thing?
stuff. So we'd scoop it out and put it out in the sun to dry and cure. That way it could be safely thrown away. But there is a lot of waste with the resin. These parts are so small, resin sticks to them, and so in the end, I think we used about 90 liters of resin to print our 50
Damn, even for those tiny batches, that's a lot of resin, to be honest.
Yeah.
And with the reduced amount of people at DEFCON 2, there's only around 10K people instead of 30K people, but that's still a lot.
16,000, and we did 54,000. So it's a lot.
By the way, I'm both doing adulting and DCG 201 stuff on my phone. I'm paying attention. I'm just... Yes! Kids, the perfect free slaves for your project. If you have kids, you have a bunch of basically disposable interns for your tech project. They're awesome.
They loved learning this process. They think it's the coolest thing. They're like, can we keep these printers so that they can print things as well? Yeah, they've been good little supporters. So.
All right, so these are the first panels we got from the assembly house. And then we started assembling them, and oh my gosh.
Yep, I love that. Now you have to put them together. New version of hell.
13,000 is a lot.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So that's one of the boards. If any of you haven't seen the inside, pictures have been circulating for a couple weeks, but that's what the inside looks
So I
like.
hate to do this, but I just remembered something, so I'm going to turn off my camera and let this play. I should be back in about 10 to 20 minutes just because I realize I have to get this thing done before even more stuff screws up today. So this is going to be one of many times I'm going to step away and be right back. I apologize. The next 2 days I'll be a lot more consistent with this. So enjoy the rest of this talk until I get back. This is pretty cool. If I ever leave, I'll always be watching stuff and checking the chat on my phone. So keep lurking and keep learning.
We just went with it. They work. They're fine. They're just a little crooked.
They should. They were last year. Worst comes to worst, they might appear like 2 months or so later after the con along with Black Hat, but I don't see why not all the talks, because again, some of them are live at the con, but I don't see why they're not going to be downloadable like immediately afterwards, but I have no confirmation of that, so let's hope so.
Against each other so hard that they permanently compress those contacts.
Be right back, everybody.
And that's a big problem because those are what connects the top and bottom boards together. And the spring contacts are 4 millimeters tall. The space between the boards is 3.6 millimeters. So any difference means they don't make contact. So another thing that happened with having boards made that you don't realize is the panels warp when they go through the reflow oven. Especially because we're doing double-sided assembly, they warp a lot. And so you can kind of see this curves up a little bit on this side. It's kind of a little bit potato chip, and that means more space on that side where those connectors are. And so some of them just plain don't connect properly. So yeah, there have been some issues with the touch slider on the side not working quite right when connected to a computer. You can kind of squish the boards together a little, and that can help. But it's one of those things that didn't happen with the prototypes. Right? Only once you start doing it in production you find these things.
We learned some things.
And yeah, and with only 4 months, we didn't have time to run, a test run of 1,000 or whatever. It was just make them all and go with it. So, you gonna try that?
You go.
Okay. So our assembly house, they came up with a really cheap, quick solution for the shipping problem.
It was
They
an
got-
amazing solution.
So we had talked about all kinds of trays and spacers and things we could use. In the end, they got these little rubber spacer dots and just put them on the corners in the center of the panels and sandwiched them with a piece of cardboard, and it kept them away from each other, and it was perfect.
It was fantastic. They're everywhere in my house. But they're fantastic.
So another thing with manufacturing, when you order parts from DigiKey or whatever, they tell you how they're packaged. Are they on reels? Are they in bulk? Are they in trays? And trays can be kind of ambiguous. Are they in the nice plastic trays that go in pick and place machines? Or are they just flimsy plastic trays that hold 1,000 of them? And they ended up not being the nice trays. So our assembly house, they CNC'd these little trays, and then someone sat there and filled them all with USB connectors so that they could be put on by the pick and place machine.
Thank you.
Yeah, and those USB connectors turned out to be a giant pain in the butt. They weren't soldering properly for the first batch of panels. I apologize if your connectors fell off or broke off. Hopefully HHV can help you out with that. On the left, they ran a temperature profiler through their oven with thermocouples attached to every USB connector on the panel to make sure that they could get it dialed in and get them soldered properly. Another thing we ran into, the USB-C connector. On a few boards, these holes where the connectors are supposed to stick through, they ended up filled up with solder mask. Yeah, just a really random thing, and it was crazy. Granted, we used a very cheap board manufacturer because we needed them to be cheap. But these are the kind of things you run into with that. But they look so pretty coming off the line.
Yeah, they do.
By the way, that's what 10,000 coin cells looks like. And that's 40,000 key switches.
Welcome to my house. This is what it looked like for the last month.
Yep. Oh, man. So many late night splashing badges and separating panels.
This was our first attempt to building for all those who were virtual. And so, yeah, we learned a lot that first couple nights.
Yep. So we built these little test jigs, which worked out really, really well. Just a little toggle clamp on top and a bunch of pogo pins, and they worked really, really well. We got little connectors on the side that when you press it down, they would go into the female connectors and test everything. And it worked great. We ended up building 6 of them. There's Katie soldering a bunch. And yeah, used them to flash 13,000 badges.
We also used his horde of a family.
Yes.
Because he's the oldest of 8.
Yep. So I had lots of family come over and help, and it was ridiculous. So they came over so many weekends over the last month to help. It was amazing. So. Yeah, so most of that was for the first 3,000 that went out to virtual people. After that, we had another 10,000 to build, and they all showed up last week.
Yep.
Because of those connectors that didn't show up on time, they were 6 weeks late. We were supposed to have 6 weeks to assemble all these. Instead, we had last weekend.
Yeah.
So we called in our SaintCon friends and our DC801 friends.
Got a space bigger than my house.
Yep, and we just, however many badges you think 10,000 is, it's more. It's ridiculous.
And I'm pretty sure they kept having babies in boxes. Because, I would empty a box, and all of a sudden there was, 50 more. And I was like, are you... No. Words were had. No.
Yeah, so many of everything. It's just ridiculous. By the way, this is what the inside of some of the badges look like if anyone's doing any challenge stuff.
Yeah.
So putting in those little spacers was a pain in the butt.
That took a day with like 15 people doing it.
Yeah, just to put the plastic spacers in all of these. So they hurt your hands after a few. So I made some little 3D printed presses that we could put them all in. And then I ended up doing the same for the key switches because those were even worse. So you can kind of see one there. Yeah, piles and piles of badges. There's me doing it. That's a better picture of the little press we used. And yeah, I think we had a dozen of those going. So many helpers. In my rush, I did not ask for permission to use their photos, so those are random faceless people. They are our wonderful helpers, and we are grateful.
We are so grateful to all of them. They showed up.
So many people and so many badges. Oh, man. So thank you to everyone that helped us put these together.
It would not have been possible without you
Yeah.
helpers and those who came to our rescue.
And especially everyone here. We had dozens of goons and other people helping us on Tuesday and Wednesday to finish up the last ones that showed up on Monday. So it was a crazy rush to the end, but we got there. Me doing some coding and testing and everything. There's my son trying to play Simon on 3 boards and getting frustrated.
He was a good tester.
So this happened yesterday. This is the biggest one I've seen so far. I think it was 20 or 21 people in a chain. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Did it work?
I heard they got up to 4. You know, we went with original Simon timings and everything, so you've got a 3-second timeout, and they only flash for like half a second. It's challenging.
And if anyone gets longer, tag us on Twitter, the MK Factor.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
For any of you who haven't gone to the chill out area, they created this really awesome display. You can go plug your badge in and it will show you all the stats, what you've connected to, how many games you've played, what your scores were, all kinds of good stuff. So I got sent this picture last week. That is not a circuit board. Someone created this. I don't know what it's made out of, but it's impressive.
Right?
So yeah, someone created that.
I think those connectors are even like...
Yeah, they've got little side connectors made out of something. I don't know.
They're
it's
painted.
Awesome.
Whoever did this, I was impressed.
Yeah. So, and then there have been so many people hacking on it already. We've got people who have made generators for the virtual stuff. We did, so you guys all can connect your badges together, but the virtual people can't. And so we created a way for them through the serial, USB to serial console to generate these strings of characters that they could pass back and forth to connect their badges over Discord or whatever other chat they're using. And people have already decoded it, figured out how it works, created their own generators to make fake connections and pass off things on their badges. And then a couple people also made internet relays for their badges. So you can connect your badge virtually through the internet to other badges, and it does it all. It's amazing. And someone even made a 3D printable little stand for your desk so that it will not move around on your desk while you're using it. It's awesome. This was our last 4 months? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of that. This is how we felt. And if you see us walking around the conference like this, you know why. It has been a ridiculous 4 months, but it's been worth it, and it's awesome, and it's done, and we're so happy it's done. So we hope you enjoy it.
You can see why we selected them. Right? They epitomize so much of the hacker spirit that we really want to call attention to and celebrate. So that was really, really cool. Hey, so we've got about 8 minutes, so we're happy to take any questions from the audience. Anybody's got one? Raise your hand. Okay, sir, I saw you first.
Hi, I'm Jacob. Can you tell us more about the software that you have on there?
Tell us a little bit more about the software you've got on there. Oh, and that we should remind them about the software updates.
Yes.
Yeah, and protocols.
Yeah, so software, do you want to know like features or?
Well, like what is it based on? What's your process? What are the challenges you have with it?
Yes, so I mean, we just did it with Atmel Studio. I guess it's Microchip Studio now. Use some of their frameworks to make it easier, and so many challenges, mainly time. Trying to get all this stuff working in this short amount of time. What else?
Lack of sleep put a lot of issues.
Well,
into it.
like the protocol. Like, how did you decide how to inter-badge communicate?
Okay, so a lot of that was decided based on how easy it would be for me to code it and debug it. And also, I had considered, this is DEFCON, I can encrypt it and do all this stuff. And in the end, I decided, one, real crypto on a microcontroller is difficult to implement. And everyone's going to dump the firmware and you'd have the keys anyway. And so I decided making it hackable is more fun, right? A little bit of obfuscation, but people are going to figure it out, and there's a lot of joy in people figuring it out and hacking it, and so that's what we did.
Yeah, so I'm curious. So you guys developed your key count, right? So, was there a particular reason you didn't want to use old manufacturers
So the question was, they bulk manufactured the resin keypads. Is there a reason why they didn't just go with bulk keys from China?
So we really wanted, so the ones that we had chosen were very similar to this. And we really, really wanted to be able to have them not just be a sticker on it, because stickers leave residue, they get yucky. This way they could be protected, your legends are a little nicer in there, right? And then by 3D printing them ourselves, we were able to put DEFCON on the keycaps, which we kind of really loved. And if you ever look at like the Goons or the presses, they have their names on them as well. Same with the Ubers, they have Uber on them and things like that. So that was one of the other deciding factors, we could personalize them.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. It's very hard to see.
Okay, another question? I thought I saw other hands. Other hands. Okay, over on.
Yeah?
They currently have, they've had what, about 70 badges linked up?
I don't have a picture, but I'm sure somebody else did. I saw somebody taking video, so you'll probably see it at some point.
That is
Sweet.
Yeah.
Tag us in it, please.
Yeah,
That's
well done.
amazing. Did you
70
guys
is a
play
record.
Simon Says?
Okay, last question.
It really worked with that many people for some reason. I think some
Fair.
kids had their badge from
Okay.
So let's close out, talk about the firmware update. The firmware you've got, you mentioned,
Okay.
there's an update, but if you go to defcon.org/signal, that is where all the updates and instructions will be. So if you ever want to do it now, you want to do it a week from now, defcon.org/signal will be where the badge software repository and updates are, right?
Yep.
Are any updates coming, or is what's there is current? And
I don't know if it's been updated yet. I sent the DEFCON webmaster a new file, but I don't know if it's been updated.
yeah, so there's one that should be slated to be posted if it hasn't been already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it will not reset your challenge status or anything like that to update firmware.
Right on. Well, thank you very much. Like we mentioned, the goon mentioned at the beginning, there's sort of a Q&A mix and mingle tonight at 6.
It's there.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Awesome.
We were just told it's there. So
Yeah, the file
latest
is-
firmware.
The firmware, current firmware is on the /signal is current. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming to the welcome and badge backstory talk. Look forward to seeing you around.
So again, that was how the badge was made. That was really cool. I remember seeing, wow, they got new people, and it's a husband and wife duo doing this, and I was like, wow, I cannot wait to see what this is all like. So here's how the rest of the day is going to go, because again, me personally and everyone else at DCG 201 had a bunch of smaller emergencies that we unfortunately had to deal with and that we're continuing to deal with, and the next 2 days should be more consistent and more professional. I'm going to spend roughly the next hour, so about to 3 p.m., 2:30 to 3 p.m. with you guys, and then at 3 you might see me duck out for a bit in order to set something up. That might change. Okay, actually better schedule. So I'm going to stick with you guys for another half an hour, and then you're going to see me pop in and out because I have to go drop something off, come back here, live stream with you guys, come back, and then hop back in order to pick the thing up. Then around 3, I'm going to then probably hop away to do something really important really quick in our household. And then at 4, between 4, maybe even 4:30, we're going to end this stream. Again, I'm sorry that everything's so condensed and so chopped up. This was supposed to be the shorter stream anyhow, but just due to stuff that happened this morning that's continuing on happening, and it's not like the FBI is at our door or anything. It's just a bunch of like things that shouldn't be complicated that other people outside of us screwed up that then made everything more complicated. So we what do you put it? So that's what's been going on. Tomorrow we're going to be streaming from 1 to, I believe, 6 or 7. And then Sunday we're going to be streaming 1 to 7. And then Master of Unlocking is going to happen at 8. Might delay it until 9 because of the ending keynote. We'll see. But anyhow, we're going to now go away from this stream and jump around a bit. And I will also put it this way. Tomorrow, the next 2 days, we'll also be checking into the DEFCON Discord occasionally. So that's also going to be that's going to be a whole thing right there. As well as less computer glitches and things like that. So I'm trying to remember what we're going to be doing here. There's note that the microphone's on, so hopefully I'm not picking any of this up. So there's a couple of villages that I wanted to highlight today. There's just random because there's so many people live. I mean, shit. Let me go back to Twitch. I can show you what I mean about this, right? Just like Twitch alone, like. It's nuts because normally when we look at Twitch, you've probably seen Twitch a couple of times when we've rated streams and we'll only have maybe 12, 15 streams running. But now that DEFCON is back, like every hacker stream, even personal channels, are all live streaming right now. It's absolutely nuts. And again, I will put this way, at the end of this, we're going to be hosting every hour multiple different, even Project Melody is on right now for some reason, that awesome AI bot. So we will be hosting, we're going to rate a stream at the end at 4 p.m. And then we're going to be hosting multiple streams every hour. And I know that tonight we're going to be primarily hosting GothCon's Twitch live stream. So if you like dark industrial, rock and roll, electro dark music, that's going to be the music for you. And then tomorrow, we'll be doing more consistent streaming. That's going to last 6 hours consistently instead of 4 hours consistently. Unconsistently. But I do want to poke around all these different stuff that's going on right now. So let's see. So if we look at the DEFCON schedule itself, see now we have more options with stuff. So I might put on this thing about using IPC logic bugs inside of Apple. And by the way, also, I'm going to have the polling working tomorrow. So all the people out there, we can actually vote on what streams to watch instead of using the chat, that sort of thing. We might do the infrastructure panel or the ebook panel next, but I want to kind of check out some of the villages. So the Rogue Village is back completely virtually. Let's see, so 10, 11, 12, 1. So Bogus Biometrics, I believe, is either ending or is about to end. We might check into the Q&A about Bogus Biometrics the next day at 3 p.m. So we might check that out instead. The Payment Village, let's see, so that's the labs. Let's look at their schedule again. This was the new village last year. They were really well professional, rounding success, to be honest. So I kind of want to see what's going on here. So let's see, 10, 11, 12, 1. Is there anything going on at 2? Let's see here. Because all their talks are only just going to be, I believe, today. So let's see. What time? 1, 2, 3, 4. So at 4 p.m. we might raid their channel and air the cryptocurrency cards. That's probably my most likely raid at the end there. But we might check out what's the next one is CryptoX exchanges. Might be something that might be interest us. What was some of the other things going on here? We might check out the voting village if they're live streaming. I don't even know. Yeah, they're live streaming. Let's actually go. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. All right, let's see if we can catch any of the end of the bogus biometrics, because if not, bad request. Yes. Yeah, there we go. Yay! We got a 400 bad request. Awesome. Bad request, my ass. Let's go away from this. Do they actually have? So Rogues does have a Twitch. I have no idea if they are using it or not. What the? Let's see what happens here. Worst comes to worst, we'll just back out into the master list. I don't think anything's loading, because normally you would see a little live icon if something was working. I think it's entirely through their YouTube. Yeah, they're not airing anything on their Twitch. And unfortunately, oh geez, hold on. What just happened here? Did this really just happen? Did I just lose the master list again? Great. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go temporarily to face cam as I attempt to unfuck this, because that's literally been my entire day so far, is trying to unfuck things that are getting fucked. Let's put it that way, because essentially I couldn't right click open the link, which means I had to use a pop-out tab. So I had to click the link, and unfortunately it does one of those weird forwarding things where you can't go back in time. So I basically have to re-find the master list again. So let's see. So it should be under GitHub if I search for it. Here we go. That's the master list right there. Thank friggin' God. Alright. So now we're back to here. I don't know why I can't... Let me try something here. Okay, so they just called it something else. That's just bizarre. So instead of just saying open new tab, now for some reason it says open in new Microsoft tab. And I was worried because I'm like, does that mean freaking Edge or something's going to open? But no, it's just a new tab in the same browser. Speaking of which, let's try to find the Rogues Village's main YouTube channel here. See if we still get the same bad request. So that one pops up, and we'll see if we catch the end of anything on here. I'm actually going to bookmark this channel because I hadn't subscribed to it. So far there's been nothing going on here, so we're not catching anything from them. That is just so weird. I'm trying to wonder, let's see, YouTube channel. Oh, I see what they did here. They accidentally, so they instead put an entire, they put an entire sentence into the actual, so they screwed up their own URLs. I'm gonna have to alert them to that on Twitch. But yeah, worst comes to worst, we'll put on the Apple thing for a bit. But let's just go poke around. Let's see if there's anything else. Actually, here's a cool thing. Let's go to the U of Tubes, and let's just go to the main DEFCON channel if we can, and see what might be streaming right now or upcoming streaming that they might have retweeted. Because I really want to check out something that's not like the main type of broadcast stuff. Let's see what's going on here. So there's a Zoom roundtable that's happening that I'm going to reshare. Yeah, that was the Discord thing we missed, unfortunately. So nothing retweeted yet. So what we might actually have to do is we might just have to poke around the different, let's actually go back to Twitch. And then I will say at 12:30, I'm gonna kind of run off and go do something. So you'll see me back and forth here like about like 3 times, and then I'm gonna leave the stream on for something, and then we're gonna call it a day at 4. Again, I apologize for the sporadic streaming because basically there was like so much. I literally thought I got all the adulting done yesterday, and I'm like, I have until 1 p.m. until we have to stream again. So it's like, if there's any last minute adulting, I could do it then. No, I could not fit any adulting into any of the stuff this morning. So that's why I've been in and out of all the different streams. It seems like I'm not paying attention, but I am. So I'm literally juggling multiple things while we're streaming on the same time. Again, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be consistently on this stream, live streaming. So you don't have to worry about that. But let's see, because I don't think we follow most of the villages. I don't know if we're like on all the villages here. Well, let's poke around here. So IoT Village is running. We have Blue Team Village, Crypto Privacy. Soma is actually broadcasting stuff from from one of the rooms at DEFCON, so that's kind of hilarious. Bypass Village is going. Ham Radio Village. Ask an Elmer. I'm kind of afraid what that means. Adafruit's going on, even though that's not technically part of DEFCON. I think this is about the making and crafting keys. So I know a lot of people out there are interested in tool stuff. Let's jump into Tool's live stream and see what they're talking about here. If we can. Loading. Originally, if we had more time, I was actually going to set up like another computer and do it so that we could do all the Twitch stuff on this computer and pipe it in. And do the thing. But again, all the adulting today knocked all of that out.
So it's very cool
I'm just
that
gonna have
you
to
can
deal.
use this for a reference.
This is about, by the way, about how you
Fine.
can impression keys on the fly, something that Deviant Ollam often teaches. So this is going to be really neat.
Information. He also has photos on his repository that look like this. And where these come in use is when you have a photo of a key. So for this example and for this presentation, I just went out and searched quickset key on Google Images. And I got this key. I brought it into Photoshop. Now you can use any photo editing
Again, I
software you
apologize
want.
for
I
any
happen
lag
to have
on our
Photoshop,
side.
but you can use GIMP or anything else.
I'm actually
And
going to
what you
reload
do
this
is
again
you
and
bring
see
the
what's going
picture in of the key, and then you cut out the key profile for the most part. And you
Here's what I think we're going to do, folks. I think we're still going to keep stuff in browser, but what we're going to do is, instead of me trying to do it through the browser, it's going to look a little wonky on stream, but I'm actually going to load up, so we'll find Twitch channels through our dedicated browser that we normally use, but what we're going to do instead is I'm going to add a new media element, and we're going to load this. Let's see, DCG, sorry, DEFCON 29 streams. Actually, I should just put Twitch. Any YouTube or Twitch that we're going to watch, we're going to dedicated, so everything's going to look a little strange right now. We're going to dedicated load it through here. So again, it's going to look really odd and a little off, but at least we should be able to get everything with this.
I believe happened at DEFCON 21 occurred. In the credits, I'll put a link to that talk.
Yeah, this is a lot
YouTube, I
smoother.
believe,
This is how we're
and
going to
all the
watch
people who are
everything.
part of that talk.
Sorry
But
about
it
that.
was
Again,
something
tomorrow we'll have a
along the
more
lines of,
professional setup going on
key duplication
because
of
we couldn't do that this
defeating
morning because we
high-security
basically
private
didn't have a
slots.
morning today. So let's watch more about
And
impressioning.
the people who created that created a software called Keygen, and they launched a website called keygen.co. This website is absolutely amazing. In your type, you select the type of key you're working with. Your outline might be like if it's a 5-pin, a 6-pin, 7-pin, whatever, master lock, padlock, a 4-pin. And then your warding type, depending on which key you're using, might have a different warding. And then using the previous slide where you figured out the cuts, like a 7, 5, 5, 4, 5, you just simply enter that number combination into the bidding and hit generate, and this generates an STL file. For those of you not familiar with 3D printing, an STL file is the base file you use as your 3D model to generate your 3D prints. So here's a quick video demo of me using the site. This is not the key I showed you previously, it's just a demo real quick, but this is a quickset. On quickset, they only have the KW1 keyway and warding. And this is a bidding I entered for a test key I have for an actual lock I own. It's 25363. I hit generate. It takes a couple seconds here, and then it generates this beautiful 3D render of the key. I mean, they even have the end of the key to match what it would actually look like on the key.
Geez, I didn't know
You
they
can
add that
download
feature in.
STL,
Holy crap, that's nuts.
or STL file to your computer. And then I open this up real quick in Windows 3 file viewer. They call it Print 3D. And this is just a basic idea of how it imports. It's an absolute perfect replication of a quickset key. At the time, I was printing this on an Ultimaker 2 Plus, and the slicer software I use for that is called Cura. If you don't know what a slicer software is, it's a software that takes into 3D printers print on layers. This slices that software, or it slices the STL file into layers so that the 3D printer can print. Now, I don't print vertically like this because it makes it very unstable and weak, and it wobbles as it prints. So the first thing I do is I rotate it flat down to the bed. And in this preview, you're going to see this big ring around the outside. That's called a brim. It just helps bed adhesion. When I actually go to print it, I don't use that brim. I do print with supports depending on the warding, but for the most point, you don't need to use even supports on that. So here's just a quick time lapse. I'll probably skip ahead. I'm not going to watch the whole thing on this, of my Ultimaker printing that exact key we just showed modeled. So if you're not familiar with 3D printing, this is just a quick overview of what that looks like. The gap you see on the bottom is part of the warding. I didn't do supports on this one because I didn't need them. And you can see towards the top there, there's a little bit of stringing between the cut. That's simple. When I'm done, I usually take an X-Acto knife and just clean that up. It doesn't really affect a quick little cut with an X-Acto knife. Cleans up any stringing or weird little print artifacts that you may receive on the print.
It's amazing that technology has advanced enough that we could do this. Like, they still teach the old school thing of like sitting there with a dedicated file and a key blank that you've sourced. In this case, it's probably a quickset 1 or 3, and then doing each key bidding. But it's insane that now you could just find a file for online and 3D print this as a test. That's just nuts.
Printed. You can see I stopped it early. That's why it's cut up on top. I insert it in, and it turns the key, or it turns the lock, opens the lock. One thing to keep in mind here is that this is a deadbolt, and this deadbolt is not attached to the actual bolt, right? So a 3D printed key will twist this open because there's no resistance from the bolt having to be slid forward and backwards. One thing I could suggest if you're worried about snapping the key off in a lock is you can either use a tension wrench at the bottom, trim a little bit off the bottom of the 3D printed key with an X-Acto knife, and slide a thin tension wrench in, or a small screwdriver to assist the turn. Because when you actually throw a bolt, you're going to have a lot more weight behind it, and it's going to be a little more difficult to turn, and you don't want to bend or snap a 3D plastic key off inside the deadbolt lock. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I had this key, but what now? I have a 3D printed key. 3D printed keys are not durable. They will not last. So I was walking through my local hardware store, mine's Menards, and I saw
If you're willing to go third party or you have the materials, well, Kiwi will work. Also, just you could also 3D print metal at certain places if you have the money and the time for it.
And by ridiculous, I mean they don't have them. So I had printed 2 keys on this machine, and what this is if you have a key, it'll duplicate your key for you unmanned. And you can see
this would have been the first workaround I think of instead of having a plastic key, and it's just hilarious that this apparently works. That's just amazing. You can also get KeyMe as an app on your phone. I'll cover that when I do Master of Unlocking this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And it misread the key. You'll see here in a second that it misread the first key, thinking it was something that it's not. And it failed. I had also printed this in a black or a dark gray PLA as well. And I'll show you that here in a second and how that works. So you can see it says here, this is a less common key. It thinks it's some weird schleg, which it absolutely is not. So at this point I was confused why it wasn't working. So I canceled out of this and I decided I'm going to try again. And at this point, I went ahead and pulled the white key out, and I put the darker key in, and it definitely helps. So I would suggest if you're going to take this attack vector to the point where you want to try to get a real key made from it, that you use a darker PLA, don't use white.
Blacker is better.
The dark gray key. I'm being very gentle shoving it in because it's got spring-loaded
See,
shutters.
not only did he say blacker is better, but he also said be careful of shoving it in. Wink, wink, wink.
On the other side, that fingerprint scanner's purpose, as horrible as this is that you can save all your key profiles in the cloud. So if you don't have your key with you, you can always come back and duplicate later. I don't really want to get into the security implications of that. So you see that it's $1.99 to get a key duplicated here, standard brass. If you'd like, you can get your Mickey Mouse or Darth Vader key, but this is for testing purposes. So after tax, it was $2.12. This is the part where I turn the camera away as I insert my credit card to pay for this transaction. Sorry, this video is a bit of a lengthy video because it took me a minute. Before they had this key me, they used to have a machine called Minute Key. And I liked the Minute Key. It worked well. It was very simple. There wasn't all this extra save your data, all this different crap. They're trying to do an upsell here. I get a secondary key here for a few bucks cheaper. I'm like, no, I'm good. I just need to test.
Sorry about that, everybody.
They want your email address so they can email your receipt, aka mark it to you. So, of course, you know me, I enter my real email address.
This is welcome to doing this stuff live.
How bad was it?
And they want to know if you want to save your key for later. That's where the fingerprint comes in. Hell no. Moving on. So it starts going down this path where it starts updating you. So here's the concept. You have a 3D printed key that is not durable. However, I can take a 3D printed key, go to an unmanned key duplication system.
This is perfect and nuts. I love this. This is why I love the Locksport community.
And I can duplicate this key. Now you saw it does have the ability to do higher security keys. Than
By the way, I'm updating on our Instagram that the 2600 meetings tonight in New York City at the City Atrium.
Though they do ask for a mailing address because they cut it and then they mail it to you. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But if you have a standard Schlage, a standard Quickset, or other master lock standard keys that are what this company considers common, it's going to cut this key in front of you and then dispense it out from the machine. And again, I have to definitely apologize the time of this video. The other thing is it says that it does have an Android and iOS app that it can scan your keys in home. I have not tested this, but I'm planning on it, where I'm wondering if I'm able to just set my key down on a desk and the app will scan it. So I'm going to be testing that.
See, that's what I'm curious of too. Maybe that'll be a future Master of Unlocking episode.
Get access to a physical key be set. Okay, so the key's done cutting. You can see it does an absolutely horrid job. You can see little pieces of flashing sticking off where it cut it. But nonetheless,
you can easily smooth that over. You have the main bitting and a durable key.
Metal duplicated brass key of something you just 3D printed, which is awesome. So that concludes the 3D printing and cutting a key. Like I said, it's very simple. The hardest part is, well, let me rephrase that. If you have access to the key, this is dead simple. You get the measurements with the key gauge, you type it into keygen.co, you spit out an STL file and you print it, and you're done. You have a 3D printed key. You can take that to an unmanned key duplication, because if you go to a hardware store and ask a real person to cut this key, you might get a weird look. I'm considering trying that just to see what happens, if they'll even do it. But you'll have a physical key if you can go to an unmanned key duplication center. So now we're going to go into molding and casting a key, and this is where you start to feel a little more like James Bond or a spy in this case, because you're starting to do a little more covert, see it in the movies kind of stuff. And the cool part is you got to play with fire. So where did I get the idea to try this? So I've been wanting to try key duplication for a while now, but I'd always seen every video. You need a clamshell. You need something to put the clay in to mold this key in. And they're always milled or CNC'd out of like an aluminum or some kind of metal. And I didn't have access to that. I live in a very small city. like population
I think you
10,000.
just take a certain type of dough and use an Altoids tray.
And I didn't know anyone. And if you were to send this off to be done, it would be kind of a high cost. And then Deviant Olaf put out a video on his YouTube channel, which if you're not subscribing, I don't know why. You absolutely should be subscribing to his videos. He put out a video and he talked about how you could absolutely 3D print this. So I went out and searched Thingiverse for a 3D printable clamshell. And lo and behold, I found one. And I'll get into who that's by here in a second. So once I saw that, Deviant talks about every little thing you need to cast a key. He goes step-by-step process on how to do this. So I watched his video, took inspiration from it, and tested it myself. And here's a link at the bottom, if you're seeing that, to his original key molding and casting video. If you don't know who Deviant Olaf is, there's his beautiful mug right there. His website is...
He's also all of our
deviant.net,
bosses
Deviant Olaf at Twitter.
at Tool.
Check him out on Twitter for sure. So
He's not going to be here at the con due to COVID reasons. Not that he got infected by COVID just because of the Delta strain stuff, but he still lives in memory with Tool and the unofficial DEFCON shoot and things like that.
Expect to pay. So in this case, you are going to need...
Technically, it is Deviant Olaf, but I think he's given up on how people pronounce his name. So it's just it's his handle, I should say. That's just that.
You don't need much time. You maybe need like anywhere between 15 to 30 seconds hands-on with that key. Depending on what you're allowed to do on a job or your story for your job, you could get access to this key for like requesting access to a server room or wherever you're trying to access specifically. And you need that key, you may have just enough time to get the mold of that key. And again, I did this all with a Quickset KW1 key. Then you're going to need a low melting point metal. So I do this demonstration at a lot of cons, and some of these cons have kids. One metal that Deviant talks about, and if you talk to other people, they suggest, is called woods metal. The problem with woods metal is that it has lead in it and other toxic chemicals that, when burnt,
Yep, this is why we teach you when you solder and even lockpick to wash your hands before you touch your face or your mouth or eat anything.
Very low cost. However, because I was going to have kids touching the metal after they're done, melting it themselves, all this different stuff, I didn't feel comfortable using a woods metal because of the toxins. And talking to some people in the Tool Slack, they suggested Fields metal. Fields metal is much more expensive by weight. I was able to get a small little brick of it, probably about 2.5 to 3 inches by 3 inches by 1/4 of an inch thick, for about $35 off eBay. That's the exact link to the one I buy. This is a reputable buyer. He's got 100% positive feedback as of this presentation, and he's always sent me the products I've needed. I did a con in Omaha, Nebraska, and at that con I ordered 5 different bricks, and he got them to me, and he was willing to work with me on price, which I thought was awesome. So this is where I get my metal. It's Fields metal. It's very low point metal, like the picture shows. It melts at about 144 degrees Fahrenheit, and it doesn't have the toxins in it. And then you're going to need something to melt that brick you get down, so you can make ingots. Deviant has some really cool big like melting pot that he bought. I looked it up on Amazon. I think it was like 35 or 40 bucks. He might have gotten it cheaper somewhere else. But I was walking through Walmart one day in the camping section, and I saw this cast iron skillet, and it was like $5. So I was willing to drop $5 on a cast iron skillet, which I bought. Obviously, I only use it for this purpose moving forward. And then Deviant had these perfectly square, small ingots.
Of course, it's an ice cube tray. Of course, it's an ice cube tray. Of course.
Exactly the right amount of metal to mold and cast one single key. So I reached out to him on, I can't remember if it was Twitter or Slack, and talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, dude, it's awesome. They're these ice cube trays." So these are these silicone rubber ice cube trays that are meant to make tiny ice cubes. So you can drop them in the mouth of a bottle of water or soda, and they're super tiny. You can get them off Amazon, and you get 2 trays, which make a ton of ice cubes, or ingots in this case, and they're $10 for both of them. Again, these prices might be different now, especially with COVID going on. They could have completely changed because all prices and availability on Amazon are off the charts compared to what they used to be. But I got 2 of them for $10, so you can either use them both or use one for key casting and one for your ice cubes. Then you're going to need the clay, and the clay is what you actually mold the shape and the indent of the key into. And Sculpey is something that Deviant recommended. One tip, when you search Sculpey clay on Amazon, select all the colors available. The reason I say this is that the price varies based on the color you select. I don't know. I don't get it. I've gotten yellow and green so far because they're usually between $2 to $3. But if you select like black or white or orange, it might be $7 to $10 for the same size, the 2-ounce size I buy here. This 2-ounce size, you can see from the picture, there's indents along each of the thing, and it pretty much it's got 4 like logs of clay. 1 log of clay is exactly what you need to cast a key. So you get a minimum of 4 castings. I found that you can reuse this clay over and over again. It does dry out over time. It is heat set. It's oven baked clay, so heat sets it and makes it hardened. So you're not going to get 100% reusability over and over again, and your results might vary. But I've gotten 4 or 5 keys out of a single piece of clay. But again, it all depends on how hot you heat your metal to before you pour it in. And then you're going to need some kind of talcum powder. I bought mine at Walmart. I bought the little baby powder. It's a little size about this big. It's a travel size baby powder, and it's perfect. And this just stops the clay from sticking to itself. So when you cast the take the 2 pieces of the clamshell and stick them together, when you pull them apart, they separate without the clay sticking together and ruining your whole mold. Then you're going to need the clamshell. I 3D printed mine from Thingiverse. ZBZZN Boris is the person who created this. There's a bit.ly link I created to link straight to the Thingiverse link for that. It works absolutely perfect. It's 3 pieces. You're going to have a left and a right to your clamshell base. And this base is awesome. In Deviant's video, he had an aluminum one, I believe, and then he used like a C-clamp to clamp it to hold it together and like kind of stabilize it on the table. This base you print for it works absolutely perfect. I love this clamshell. I've used it over 100 times, and there's no deformation. It absolutely does not deform. It holds up to the heat. You have to realize that when you print PLA, you print at a minimum usually of 190 degrees Celsius to 200
Phone losers of America.
degrees Celsius, and we're only hitting around 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, unfortunately, I use American units. I wish we'd switch to metric and Celsius, but I don't understand it off the top of my head. So you could do the conversion, but the point is you never get close to that melting temperature or the glass temperature of the filament, so you're going to be absolutely fine. Then you're going to need a melting ladle. This thing was like $10 off Amazon. It's for melting lead, casting ammunition, things along those lines. It was $10 on Amazon. It fits a perfect ingot inside of it, and you can hold a lighter underneath it to melt that down. Then you're going to need a lighter. Deviant suggested a torch lighter. I do as well. I think it puts out a little more heat than just a standard lighter. But I've tested with Fields Metal. You can use like a tea candle or a standard Bic lighter or a Zippo lighter. It will get it hot enough over time. It's just not as fast. If you're like me and you like a cigar every now and again, I already own a cigar lighter. I bought this one off Amazon for $15 like years ago for the purpose of actually having cigars. It just so happened to work perfectly for this situation as well. So this is a video of me trying not to upset my wife. This is the $5 cast iron.
He says that like this is a common occurrence.
With the brick of metal, of Fields Metal I bought off of eBay. And I'm slowly just melting it down inside this pan. I make a very noob mistake here. Do not make my mistake. I took a kebab skewer and I was making sure it was fully melted. And kind of stirring it around to make sure there was no more chunks of metal, that it was 100% completely melted on my stove. And then to make sure, I, like an idiot, swirl it around in the pan like you would with butter if you're about to fry a steak. And
that's a bad idea.
Coat my entire pan with Fields Metal. So I lost a bit of metal because of that. But like I said, I'm not using this pan for anything but melting Fields Metal in the future. So it works perfectly. I put the wax paper underneath the ice cube tray in case I spilt. That's the only person I have that there. If I didn't overspill, it would land on the wax paper and not my stove, and my wife would still love me. So I quickly just pour this in here, and you can see that I got a whole bunch of full cube pours and then a whole bunch of random ones. And then you can see the cubes it makes. I think I got about 16 cubes out of that one piece of metal, so that's enough for 16 keys. One note, when I poured into this ice cube tray, it doesn't fully fill all the cubes. So what I did is I popped them all out. Anything that was a full cube, I set aside. Anything that was a partial cube, I took into my melting ladle. I melted it down, all the little fragments, little pieces, and then I slowly poured them in cube by cube until I got a full ingot for each one. So that's just a little pointer there. So now we're going to switch to demo time, aka time to play with fire. Don't try this at home.
Fire!
Or if you do, just don't blame me if you get hurt. I highly suggest you try this at home. Full disclosure, I've had this demo pre-recorded for a time because it's one of those things that with COVID going on, I've done a lot of virtual conferences. And with a virtual conference, it's just difficult to plan ahead. So I pre-recorded the actual demonstration of this video. So
Which is smart because you don't want to upset the demo guards regardless. I would have done that. I even do that with in-person presentations. I record even as a backup the demo just because of that. So let's watch him not try to catch himself on fire.
Here, I'm going to go over what I have here on the table. So some of the things you're going to need. The first thing is a clamshell. This is what we're going to use to actually mold the key. This is actually 3D printed. It's fully available for free download off thingiverse.com. And I'll try to make sure the links are available. They're definitely available in the slides, which I'll also make available to everybody. So we have the main clamshell and the base. The base is pretty much so you don't have to hold this as you're pouring molten metal into it. It just lets you freehand it. Speaking of pouring molten metal, the next thing we have here is a ladle. And this is a lead ladle. You could use this for pouring lead, but it works perfectly for what we're doing. So we'll be pouring the metal into the clamshell like that. The next thing we're going to need is some sculpting clay. This is Sculpty. It's like a few bucks on Amazon for this package. This package is pre-split into 4 different bars, and you just need 1 bar is exactly perfect to fill this mold.
I'm going to disappear for a bit. I need to do some adulting, so enjoy this semi-illegal chemistry video here done by the people at Tool. So I'll be right back.
Walmart's like $1 something, just because it's small and convenient. And I travel with all this stuff in this like pencil bag I found one time at Walmart during school shopping time. It's like $1 or $2 for this zipper bag, and it holds everything I need. You're going to need a lighter. I suggest a torch or a cigar lighter. This is a cigar lighter. You can't really see the flame on camera, I'm guessing, but that's what that is. And then I also have the metal. So there's different kinds of metals you can use for this. A very common, popular one is called woods metal. The problem with woods metal is that it contains lead, so it's toxic. The fumes it puts off are toxic. So I would highly suggest against it if you're going to be doing this around kids or in the public. For your own use, that's up to you. You decide if that's okay with you. This is Fields metal. Fields metal is non-toxic. I get mine off Amazon, and it's like $35 for a brick. And 1 brick makes pretty much enough to fill this little sleeve here. So about 16 little cubes. You saw in the previous video that I made, melting it into a pan and then pouring it in this mini ice cube tray. So let's get into molding an actual key. So I have this lock. It's a quick set lock, and here's the key for that lock. Works perfect. So this is the key we're going to mold. So to get started, I'm going to move some stuff. First thing I'm going to do is get my clamshell opened up and laid flat in front of me. And I'm going to open my clay. Now I try to open this nicely so that I can kind of wrap it back in the clay later. That's only because I'm doing it for demo purposes. This doesn't really matter. I've actually 3D printed a holder for this clay just because I like to be organized with my stuff, especially in 3D printing. So if you look at this again, you can see that there's, it's maybe hard to see, but you can see how there's these lines that pre-cuts it into these bars. And this 1 bar is exactly the right shape. So if I take this bar and break it in half, or relatively in half, like so, This is exactly perfect for each side. So just take one and mash it up just like Play-Doh, soften it up just a little bit. And then what you're gonna do, and it's up to you, some people like to take talcum powder and put this in so the clay comes out easier. For demo, I don't really care. If you needed to do multiple back-to-back, maybe that would make sense. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I get it into about a shape like that, and then I just push it down into the clamshell. And try to get it as flat as possible. So I'm pushing it down in, I'm backfilling this big gap at the top, the big void at the top. And you want it to be as level with the top of this as possible. You don't want a big bulge of clay sticking up because it won't give you a good mold. It'll wrap around the key, which you do not want. So get this as flat as you can. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. When you squish these two together, you're probably going to get some leak out. That's fine. Just get it as best as you can. So you can see I have that. It's pretty level. It's hard to see on camera, but it's pretty level. Now this part, you're going to want to depress this down in like so to create a well, because you need some place to pour the molten metal into. So I'm creating like this lip that I can bend backwards, and it's just this well, because the top of the key doesn't need to be molded. That's not important. So pretty much you do this again and just repeat it on the other side. So I'm going to take the clay and again soften it up by squishing it. And you want to make sure that you the border here. You want that lump, and then you want to press it down to flatten it out. Otherwise, if you try to like skim it in, you might get an air pocket below, and when you squish the key in, all the clay moves down, and you won't get a good impression. Okay, so I've pushed it all down in, and I still have a bulge. So now I'm going to work on getting that bulge down so it's not above the plane of the top of the clamshell. And again, I'm going to fill this void in on the top. People have asked me if the color of clay matters. It doesn't. Literally, if you go on Amazon, one day one color is cheaper than the other color. So sometimes you'll see this in yellow, sometimes you'll see it in green, black, red, blue. It doesn't matter. It is literally just whatever's the cheapest I buy, because why pay $8 or $5 for red when green is $1.99? So, okay, so I have that pretty well in there. I'm going to check to make sure I don't have it too low. And I think I'm good. And now I'm just going to, again, create that well on the top with my thumb, squishing it back. So I create a lip. And when I put these two together, it'll create a pour spout, kind of like this, that the metal can go down in. So now the next important part is to cover these two pieces, or these two sides, in talcum powder, so that when you push the two clays together and you separate them, that they separate and they don't just stick into one big glob of clay. So you just take a little talcum powder and sprinkle it on both sides here. And then just take your finger and rub that talcum powder across the top of all the clay. Just like that. Double check this. This seems a little bulgy. Now that I've pressed it down, I'm going to put a little more powder on. Okay. So we have these both sides coated. They're good to go. So I'm done with the talcum powder. I'm done with the clay. So the next thing we're going to need here is we're going to need the key. Now it's important that when you press this down that you think about this key as having two halves. Have one, have two over here. You don't want to shove the whole key down 100% into one side. You want to push it down about halfway on one side so that when you put the other clamshell on top, half of the keys on one clamshell and half of the keys on the other side of the clamshell. So to start with, I'm just going to place this in here so that the bow of the key, which is right here, is make sure that that's in thick clay, not in the well. So I want it down far enough that we're good there. Okay.
And then I'm going to press down and rock it back and forth, just trying to get it down about halfway in. And just lean in and check on it. Make sure you're about halfway in all the way around. So now you can see the key stuck in halfway there. Now the next thing to do is take this clamshell, place it on top, and then squeeze these two pieces together. Now it's suggested that you stand on this, which I'm not going to do because you're not going to see it anyways. So I'm just going to place my hands down on the table and press. You want to get a nice firm pressure on this, and just stand on it and put some weight on it a second. Give it a second for the clay to move out of the way for the key to come in. Because remember, you have the warding and all the parts of the key that you need to get up in. Okay, that should be good. Now, you want to carefully open this, separate them apart. Don't rock it back and forth because you're going to mess up the clay. Just try to get it apart as cleanly as possible, like so. And we have a pretty decent impression over here. It looks like the key sunk in a lot on this side, so I'm hoping this all turns out well. But you saw how the clay came apart without sticking. That's because we used the talcum powder. So I'm going to bend this lip back, and I'm going to use the true method of flicking the key out. The reason we do this is we want to get it out as fast as possible, because if you lift it up, it can cause the tip of the key to dig into it. So we want to get it out as fast as possible. So there, it's out. It shot across the room, but that's fine. So where do we go from here? So the next step to do is we're going to go ahead and take these two pieces of clamshell, we're going to put them back together. And now we have a void. Now I'm going to open up these lips on the top to make sure that I can see down into where we're about to pour, which I can see fine. So I'm going to place that into this holder. And this does two things. One, it keeps these two pieces tight together. And two, it makes it so I don't have to hold this in my hands as I pour molten metal over it. And if I bump it or miss, I'm not going to end up with melted metal all over my hands. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take out 1 cube of my Fields metal. And again, this metal is meant to melt at very low melting points. So a candle or a lighter works fine. And 1 cube is almost absolutely perfect for your average key. So like a standard Schlage key or quickset key. So I'm going to drop this in the end of the ladle, like so. And I'm going to try to do my best here to let you see this melt and how fast it goes, but it's going to be kind of hard to do. So we'll do our best here. So I can already see it moving, so it's already starting to melt. And as soon as the metal below it starts melting, and you get a little bit of liquid metal, that metal heats up the rest of the cube and it melts really quickly. So there it goes. So now I got to kind of look at it here to verify. So it just hit completely liquid. I'm going to go a little bit longer to make sure it doesn't start solidifying on me quite yet. There we go, we're good to go. And now we just pour this metal down in, and I'm kind of doing this because I want it to get down in and I want any air bubbles to get out. But that should be good. And now we just let it sit. Now, depending on how long you heat this for, let me bring this in. This is silicone, so I can put something hot on it and it won't melt. Depending on how long you heat the metal for, it's going to take longer to cool. Now, this takes quite a bit longer to cool because it's such a low melting point. If you use Woods metal, the toxic stuff, it doesn't take as long to do. If you watch any of Deviant's videos, you'll see that he uses, his clamshell is actually, I think it's milled out of aluminum, which if you think about what aluminum is, it's a heat sink. So that would help awesome to cool the key faster, where this is plastic. This isn't going to act as a heat sink. So if you can get a metal clamshell, great. Again, it's not needed. This is super simple to make. It's probably like a few dollars worth of plastic in this. So it works really well. You don't have to have metal. If you've ever seen it, when I first started, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, I didn't have a metal clamshell. How am I supposed to try this? And when I saw the 3D printed one, it was fantastic. So I'm watching the top, I'm kind of shaking it, and I can see that the center's starting to solidify, but the sides are still jiggly, and I wish I could tip this to show you, but if I do that, metal might run out. So it doesn't have to be cooled down to take it out, but it does need to be solidified. So we're gonna finish letting this go here. I'm just tapping it, and pretty much what I'm looking for is if the metal's still kind of jello-y on top, or you can see liquid still. And as soon as I don't see that anymore, then I'm pretty sure we're good to go. So there's just a few little spots that are still like that in here. We're very close now. Some very, very small spots still jiggling, which means they're cooling off. And if you open this too early and it's not solidified down, you're going to have molten metal just running out. So better to be safe than sorry. Okay, it looks pretty solidified. I'm going to give it a couple, like one more minute here just to cool off a little bit to guarantee it's good all the way down. And when we pull this out, you may or may not see some gaps, some air gaps. That's fine. The key can still work. The important part obviously is the bitting of the key and the warding. But if there's holes in the warding, we're fine. If there's holes in the bitting, then we have problems because there might make a dip where it won't lift the pins to the proper height. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and take the base off this. Okay.
Hi everyone, this is going to take a little bit longer, so I'll probably be back closer to 3.
And it looks like we have a good casting. So let's see, well, got to keep it in the light so you can see it here. So there's the key. And you can see we don't have the entire top of the head. We have just enough though that we can grab onto it and turn it. And we can see all the key in here. We can see the warding. So let's go ahead and peel this out. So we got a little clay on the tip. That's not a big deal. Just pull it off. So you can see there's a lot of flashing around here and stuff like that. But again, none of this matters. And if that bothers you, it's so thin and soft. Just bend it back. Okay. Now we have a little bit of flashing, it looks like, around this bitting area. But again, I'm not overly concerned with that because of the way the cut is. I can just kind of bend that flashing out of the way. So I think we're completely good to go here. So now it's the moment of truth because, you know, demos fail. What's new? So let's place it into the lock. It goes into the lock. That's good news. Now we'll open the lock. There it goes. So there was that little bit of flashing. So when I first started turning it, it caught. But as soon as I turned, that flashing bent out of the way and we're good to go. So now we have a fully working duplicate of that key. So like when we talked about with 3D printing of this key is very bendable. It's very soft. But I can take a pair of calipers, or again, I can take the key depth measurement guide here. Let's see, quick set. Where'd you go? There. And I can take this now. I can get the measurements from this on my own time because I have a duplicate of this key now. Take my own time to get my measurements. I can 3D print this key and take this to a key duplication, unmanned key duplication machine and have a permanent copy of this key forever. If you only need to get it once or twice, this will work. Again, this will last for a while. So I'm making a mess, but like that, it'll work perfectly. However, I want to show that this key is soft, so I'm going to bend it here just to show you. That doesn't take a lot of power to bend that. You can see that's a completely bent key now. But if I lay it on a table and I flatten it back out, we should be good to go. Let me just test it. Yep, we still get an open. So that is duplicating key with casting a key and melting metal in casting it in clay. So let me flip back to my other screen here and we'll continue on.
Okay, so time to give some credit here. So first of all, we have the keygen.co. There's the GitHub repository for that. And below that is the talk I specifically mentioned earlier, where keygen.co came from. It was from DEFCON 21, key decoding and duplication attacks for the Schlage Primus high security lock. There's a link to the YouTube video of that talk. And that was done by David Lawrence, Eric Van Albert, and Robert Johnson. Big shout out to them. I believe the tool is also available as just a Python script you can download and run locally, so you don't need to rely on their website. The website's just super quick and easy. Obviously, I have to give a massive shout out to Deviant Olaf. I didn't think I could do key duplication before I saw his video. After watching that video, he gave an in-depth, very, very detailed way of how to do key duplication. And the fact that he mentioned you could use 3D printed clamshells is what even sent me down this path. So check out his website and check out his Twitter. And then the link below that is the original key molding and casting video. And again, a big shout out to Boris for the 3D printed clamshell that he makes freely available to the world on Thingiverse. If you go back in the slides, you will definitely see the link to that. So I want to thank you guys for letting me talk to you today about key duplication. If you have a 3D printer, please give this a try. It's super simple. Just enter a random bidding code, if you will, just to test it out and print a 3D key, just so you can see how easy it is. If you have your own key, go ahead and duplicate your own key just to test it out and see how well it works. It's super simple using the keygen.co. If you have any questions, any comments, or anything else you want to talk about, again, hit me up at Twitter at Varelli. It's the easiest way to find me. And then questions. If you have questions, obviously I'll be sticking around. You can find me in the Discord channel. I'll be available to answer any questions you might have, details about printing, molding and casting, anything like that. So again, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope you have a great DEF CON safe mode, and stick around at the Lockpicking Village with Tool for all the other amazing talks that are coming up. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Bite.
Yeah.
So there seems to be an issue with the Q&A channel, so people should feel free to just drop that in the general text channel. So we'll just give people another minute or so to type their questions in. Okay, so actually we have a question from Carbon. Says, thanks for the talk, super interesting. Does the clamshell accommodate so-called security keys?
So yeah, the clamshell will accommodate security keys. It's actually long enough to do a 7-pin key as well. But yeah, if you're talking like Medicos or Flake Everest, those are a little harder just due to the fact of the plate getting into the second row of 30 or cuts, but it does work.
Welcome to the Lockpick Village. We are the open organization of lockpickers, an international nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching hobbyist lockpicking, sometimes called lock sport. This is the tool introduction to lockpicking talk, where we will teach you real lockpicking over the course of the next 20 to 25 minutes. To begin with, though, we have some rules. Because we are the good guys, the white hat hackers, ethical lock sporters, we have 2 rules that we're very serious about. First, don't pick locks which you don't own, which includes the locks in your apartment or the other institutions that you're at. And also, don't pick locks upon which you rely. We want lockpicking to improve your safety and improve your ability to control your surroundings, not damage the locks or damage your personal safety. So follow those 2 rules, help us improve the impression of lockpickers, and help yourself stay out of trouble. The type of lockpicking we're talking about today is pin tumbler lockpicking, and it has 2 tools involved. Not 1, not 3 or more. It's 2 hands with 2 different tools doing 2 different tasks inside the lock. In Hollywood, you'll see them stick any old thing, a piece of chewing gum, a pen inside the lock, and what do you know? It just falls open. In the real world, though, picking this type of lock takes 2 different tools with 2 different tasks. I show you this slide here so that you can see it at least once right before we talk about how it's actually done. As for the type of lock, that pin tumbler lock, well, that's the famous lock profile that you've seen just about every day if you're in North America and many places outside North America. Whether you see that shape in a deadbolt or a padlock, or any time that you see that familiar curvy shape, that's the pin tumbler lock. And since about 1865, it has been what we mean when we say lock in North America. You're used to seeing it from the outside. What you're probably less used to seeing is the inside. Let's go past that front face and look behind it. Here's your X-ray view and some vocabulary terms. There's a lot of terms here. The one I want you to focus on is that one right in the middle, that blue pin, which we call the driver pin. Obviously, they're not red and blue in real life, and we can't really refer to them as 1 pin, 2 pin, red pin, blue pin, nor can we refer to them as top and bottom pin, because in Europe, when they have these types of locks, they can often be inverted. And since they've been doing this longer than we have, they win. We don't call them top and bottom. We give them functional names. And the driver pin's job is to push down on that key pin. The key pin holds the driver pin up, and the spring makes sure that gravity doesn't affect what happens with those pins. If you want to think about it, the driver pin is the lock because it's the piece that's half in and half out of that plug, that yellow plug that turns. If the driver pin sits right there, then the lock stays locked, and the spring and the key pin are just there to make sure that unless and until the proper key is entered, that driver pin is in the way. We talk about the driver pin being in the way. What we mean is it's at this dotted line called the shear line. The shear line isn't a part of a lock, it's a place, or it's really an absence of thing, which is the separation between, again, the plug that turns and the housing that doesn't. As long as there's something at that shear line, usually the driver pin, the lock is locked, won't turn, and won't open. Here's what it looks like when you try to turn the lock with the driver pin still in place. It wobbles a little bit, but it doesn't open. Think of that driver pin as saying, no, no, still no, try again, I'm locked. The way to change that is with a key. All the key's job is to displace, fill up that space so that the key pin rises up, which in turn pushes the driver pin up. And as soon as the driver pin is past that shear line and there is nothing at the shear line, i.e. the key pin is all the way in and the driver pin is all the way out, there's nothing blocking the plug can turn and the lock can open. If you take multiple driver pins, multiple key pins, and multiple springs, and you all put those in a lock body, you have a real, honest to goodness, bought it at the hardware store lock. This is the lock at rest. A few things you'll notice about it. First, the driver pins are all in line at the shear line, and they're all identical. Also, the springs are all identical up here.
Hey, sorry everybody, we're basically back again. Let's figure out how to turn this thing off. Where the hell? Here it is. So we're going to turn this off in a moment. We're going to switch to something else. Keep everything fresh. Again, I'm sorry that I've been in and out today. I'm going to be consistently sitting down and streaming the entire time. Okay, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating. But yeah, I'm going to be consistently live streaming the next 2 days. It's that I thought I was able to get a ton of stuff out of the way, and unfortunately I wasn't able to because everything in life, everything in the space where the atoms are that aren't the computers was going crazy for me today. So I'll be around with you guys for the next like 15-20 minutes and I have to run out again, and then we kill this stream right at 4, which probably means I'm going to be running late for me at least, the NYC 2600 meetup, because we're all going to head towards there. The NYC 2600 meetup, if you're in New York, the New York metro area, that's going to go on between 5. It's going to start at 5 p.m. and it technically goes on to question marks, but I honestly think it's going to like probably peter out in terms of going away from the space and getting food around 8, and then what's going to happen is just looking at our schedule here is let's see. Okay, so I just want to count here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's going on. I'm just making decisions here. decisions is let's see here. 12, 1, 2, 3. Okay, is that my brain's going dumb. So that's going to peter out around 8 p.m. in which like everyone's probably going to go to food and stuff like that. But but we're going to be there like between the 5 and 8 p.m. and we're going to try to stream from Instagram at 7 p.m. because that's when we could basically almost, unless something really goes AWOL, that's where everything should everyone should definitely be there. We might have like 1 or 2 people out there. It might be a 10-minute long stream, might be a half an hour stream on Twitch. It's going to be exclusively on Twitch. We're not going to be streaming on here. It's going to be all sorts of different stuff. But right now I'm just kind of weighing in my options about like looking at what's live streaming right now. What could we jump into? Let's see what is running. You know what? To be honest, I was almost going to go for the payment village, but I think we'll try to jump in that tomorrow. Honestly, I feel like the blue team village does not get enough love. I mean, literally the blue team village is lagging behind the red team village by like almost half in terms of viewership. So you know what? Let's look a bit about what blue team is doing, and then we will and then I'm gonna have to hop out. We'll be watching. Oh, gee, did that really just happen? And we're gonna watch something else, and then I'll be away. This is basically, we're kind of potpourri, just winging it right now because there's basically a certain company that I'm not gonna honestly name right now. I'm not even gonna like joke cough name it, that I want to kill, that basically cause all these disruptions. Tomorrow we will be a lot better prepared for stuff. So let's just hop in and see what the blue team is doing literally at the blue team village.
And I believe we will not see a fishing drop. It is just too effective, and we will become. It will just become more and more refined. In addition, I also believe that cross-medium integrations will occur. For example, pre-texting through something like WhatsApp. Finally, specifically for business email compromise, the tactics are expected to become a bit more sophisticated. For example, targeting group mailboxes to instruct changes of payment details. And I think it's safe to say that ransomware and phishing/business email compromise are still the industry's 2 biggest problems. I'm always surprised actually about this one, the supply chain compromise, and especially about folks referencing supply chain compromises as something new. This technique was around when I was in diapers, and it will probably exist until I'm not there anymore. Most interestingly, major service providers got hit in the first half, and cloud providers have been at the crosshairs continuously. That being said, we haven't seen any the latest. We haven't seen the latest of this big instance. This will continue to happen, and I'm expecting this to also appeal to the geopolitical theater. Now, one element that actually doesn't get a lot of attention is the non-technical aspect of gaining initial access. You really don't need a comprehensive targeting program when you can just
By the way, nothing sponsored by ShopRite on this program. This is just a, I was going to call it a bag because that's how fried my brain is, a basket we've been using.
vulnerabilities, right? When it rains, it pours. And this is unfortunately the same for our friends at Microsoft. Windows vulnerabilities dominated the last 6 months with the exclusion of some VPN, basically anything remote work-centric vulnerabilities. The essence appears to reside in vulnerabilities in the older versions of Windows, which are then weaponized in modern versions. And this will most likely not change. All this media attention, however, does deflect from security of other OSs like macOS, Linux, etc. Another big thing to keep an eye out on is the new Chinese regulation for vulnerability disclosure. Just putting it out there. This regulation forces Chinese researchers to first share vulnerabilities with the MSS with all consequences you can think of. This is a very, in my opinion, concerning development for our friendly Chinese vulnerability researchers.
He has been doing a lot of great work, particularly at Usenix.
DDoS. To me, DDoS came actually as a surprise when analyzing the keywords of all the as part of the meta-analysis. But the conclusion today is quite simple. This is still a valid technique in the arsenal of threat actors. The pandemic and the role of cloud services needed for work have made us vulnerable to peak flooding. And remember that time when Slack was down? Oh boy. I'm going out on a limb here and forecast that we will see more than 10 million DDoS attacks this year. And I'm expecting new innovations that will lead to more effective targeting, thus, tech being more refined. And at this point in time, DDoS extortion, for example, is not the well-oiled machine that it could be, but I can imagine people can do that.
We're talking about very important things. Don't mind the man behind the curtain.
Which are most referenced.
All you lip readers be damned.
Now, what happens if you take all top fives, threes, etc., and put that in a chart? Then you get something like this, what you see on screen. Basically, what everyone is thinking in a chronological order. There's a couple of interesting highlights. First one is that initial access is consistent with the main topics we identify: phishing, supply chain, so vulnerability exploitation. The second is that once inside, droppers take care of dropping additional malware. This could be info stealers, Trojans, or ransomware. The third one is that ransomware is more often deployed at the end of the compromise when the Trojans are in place, the actions on objectives have been fulfilled. For example, exfiltrating that confidential information. And the fourth is the crackdown of law enforcement that is also clearly visible in this overview. And my compliments go out to all the people working day and night to stop this misery. Now, what makes these kind of overviews useful, in my opinion, is that you can leverage this understanding to prepare your security program. So are we sufficiently equipped with remote access Trojans? Yes, so let's check that. Another example could be, how well equipped are we to identify the fan favorite Cobalt Strike activity? Let me know what you think about this. Now, there's a couple other themes and topics you should be monitoring, which are not, let's say, in front of everyone. First one is that risk is great. Everybody says the overall risk is becoming greater every year. I'm seeing this every year. I think this is bullshit.
As they say in the movie Hackers, risk is good.
Vendor that tells you this. So, for example, the overdominance of ransomware and phishing articles, does that actually align with real-world activity? In this case, it probably does, but the point is to do the work. sometimes folks need a fresh angle, which they didn't think of. Another theme is the evolution of crimeware, especially the business behind that. So imagine this, these are the kids that were growing up in the zeros.
Just a note, in a couple of minutes at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to switch to a different stream, and I'll be gone for a little bit.
For the zeros, who otherwise could have been successful internet entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, they now took the dark route, and I think this commoditization of cybercrime drives profit and attracts talent. So I'm expecting nations to further collaborate, join forces, share resources to target common enemies, also considering victim vetting and service modularity. I even heard somebody say the dirty word, an apex threat actor. Oh boy. Now we're in for a treat, right? Another element to consider is the role of Western bias in our threat landscapes. Primary adversaries are China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. Well, the East says, no, it's US, it's Israel. The reality is that most countries actually have developed powerful capabilities, not to mention foreign versus domestic actor groups. Now we also have the macOS-based threats. And in the next half, we might even see the development of the first ever malware to take advantage of Linux virtualization streamlined on Mac computers running Apple Silicon and the Big Sur. Who knows? And finally, we have another big one, is the Windows high ground. And what I'm trying to say with that is the dominance of the Windows terrain has a big impact on everyone's threat landscape, mostly the Windows user base. And that drives security research, obviously, into new attack vectors in that majority. And that's also demonstrated by the recent Exchange vulnerabilities. But also the new features announced related to Android signal some interesting discussions. Now, if we have some specific topics to monitor, the first one could be the focus on the old. We mentioned earlier that the research that goes into old versions of Windows, and this is a big thing. Another big thing, yet simple, is attack web applications, but relatively simple attacks that apply a small number of steps or additional actions after the initial web application compromise. For extortion, we can expect a continued emphasis on notable extortion attacks. This is a low-cost effort with moderate high return, basically a criminal sweet spot, and it could tie into DDoS, it could tie into ransomware. We could see it everywhere. The third one is DNS-focused attacks. Even our phone book should be considered. One example can be DNS over HTTPS as attack vector. Everybody's talking about that for years, and even influencing DNS is the thing for years. And for some reason, this is pushed again. And I'm actually curious if this is part of one of the trends I've been seeing in recent years, that actors move back to the perimeter because hosts are sufficiently locked down. Now, in terms of browser injection, malware code has become more flexible than ever and is able to reach further into the attack surface. One malware campaign can have a wide focus across different devices and platforms. A specific malware, for example, controlling hundreds of thousands of domain, and the malware itself performs browser injection in order to seed malicious search results in the browser once it is affected. And once you load a malicious DLL extension, it's essentially game over. And what people don't realize is that a lot of edge device is also a browser, right? Finally, we have war driving. The topic we talked about 5 to 10 years ago. Well, right now, it's never been so easy. And commoditization has spurred solutions that simplify this process. And what is interesting is that you don't have to build it yourself anymore. Yes, I know this is what everyone does. But it evolved from just Wi-Fi to also Bluetooth. So traditional skimmers get an upgrade that allows for more effective collection of some sensitive information. Probably see something more on that. So next steps on my side. First of all, I will do this exercise again by the end of the year. It will be interesting to compare what people put out there and if they saw the lessons of this talk. And I will explore more automatic analysis of reports. Maybe me and some friends will hook up the old algorithm Who knows? And it would be really cool if we can get to some sort of machine readable format. I'm thinking JSON, sticks, tagging, something like that. And this would allow for more comparison and making everyone's precious time more effective. Finally, I'm also a big fan of scenario creation and more importantly, testing of that and to determine the actual risk. And I'm anticipating that the industry can also play its part in enabling this scenario philosophy. And one good example is for Verizon's DBIR, which includes some specific scenarios which folks can look into. So concluding, the average of what everyone thought was on point. Hypothesis, check. And for the in-house teams, I have three main takeaways. One is that basic security hygiene obviously combats pre-compromise behavior. Prepare for the post-compromise behavior. And thirdly, report on forecasting, however you can. More specifically, what you expect to happen soon, what is happening right now, and what do you think about the gap between the two. And what about the vendors? Well, I want to challenge all the vendors to think more in terms of creativity. We will hate you. We will not hate you for trying something new, innovative, and fail. What people just don't like is complimentary marketing briefings. People will reach out to you either way. And finally, and most importantly, make actual forecasts instead of the easy topic X will be going trending soon. Don't be that dart throwing InfoSec Jim. Well, special thanks to the folks who helped me create this presentation. I really enjoyed it. It was my pleasure to speak at the Blue Team Village. To wrap it up, my contact details are listed here. And if you're up for custom weather forecasts or just want to hang out, reach out. Also, the reports reviewed in this research are uploaded to my GitHub. The link can be found in the visual. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Is that the good news about it is that a lot of the villages are now working together. So while they haven't merged, they've been like making like contests between 2 or 3 villages and stuff. So that might be a thing. What we're talking about, and we'll probably send a formal thing over to DEFCON or some other people we know. But it's like every year, not just at Black Hat, but at DEFCON in general, there's always some crazy shit going on with like printers and scanners and other forms of documents. So we were thinking of making like a printer and document village with friends or something like that. Because there's 3 villages I've always wanted to do. There's that. One already got started by the mental health hackers. I've always wanted to make like a wellness village and kind of use the awesome thing that Hacks for Pancakes came up with of like, come speak about a tech topic you really like for like 10 minutes and then speak for 10 minutes on something that has nothing to do with just like a decompression area where it's like we get to more explore the other parts of ourselves. The big one I've always wanted to do, and you can't steal it, because if you're like the cannabis village, if you steal my idea or part of my idea, you're not going to do it as well as I do. I've wanted to make a sex and all of those things. We can even do the village where it only opens at like 8 p.m. and onwards, just to make sure that they have like the complete opposite end of the casino where Roots Asylum is, or maybe we can even just dedicate a building to it or a floor to it. I don't know. But just something in that. We're going to put on another thing, and then unfortunately I have to run out again and check all the stuff and drink all the booze and hack all the things, which is pretty much what I'm going to be doing 4 hours from now. And I'm just seeing what currently is up streaming. I know there's like a lot of more streaming stuff. And I think what we're going to do next is, if I don't see anything that hops out anything immediately, yeah, let's go take a look at the cryptocurrency village until 4 p.m. and then unfortunately we're going to call this a stream. Thank you for everyone who's been putting up with us. I know everything's been very slapdash, but it's just because we had a bunch of stuff come up at the last minute that will hopefully not happen on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll fix all of that. But let's tune into the crypto village. I'm going to hop out and then hop back on. And then we'll go raid another Twitch stream that's running at DEF CON and call it a day here. So I'm going to turn the cam off and the mic off, and we're going to see what the crypto people are talking about. They're also, by the way, like we said yesterday, if you go to their website, the Crypto Privacy Village, I forget the URL right now, I'll post it in chat in a bit. They are running their own contest again called the Golden Bug, and they just put an image of a gold beetle. And I'm pretty sure if you like decode that image, like in terms of like it's like bit processing or like the different color layers, you'll find a bunch of different things in there. It's this crazy contest, and people are already hacking away with it right now. So let's see what the OG crypto is in cryptocurrency and not, crypto in cryptography and not cryptocurrency or crypto Judaism. Let's see what they're talking about. So here we go.
Cryptozoology.
Yeah, cryptozoology. Yeah, Bigfoot in Vegas. There we go. We should dress in a Bigfoot like I could dress in a Bigfoot costume and walk by the crypto and privacy village.
Crypto.
Yeah. Or maybe that's what should be a DC21 shirt. Crypto. You figure out what it means. That would be hilarious. So we're gonna turn the mic off, the cam off for a little bit, but we'll be back on right before 4. So let's see what they're talking about here. Here we go. So apparently the crypto and privacy village just went on break right when we checked in, so we're gonna go load up another village here. Hang on, everybody. Again, welcome to DEFCON, where nothing works. It's just like DCG 201, where nothing we do works, and we're just amazed we put up with each other. So we're gonna just go to a random stream from DEFCON right now. Here we go.
And what pisses me off is that the poorest people will be hit the most, because if you are a single mom with one bank account, one card, and 2 kids, and having to pay some stuff with cash, and then suddenly you find out you cannot use your card because it's been blocked, because the card number has been stolen, and the bank has actually detected it, or you get, cash trapping happens to you, which means you will not get your cash, but the cash doesn't go instantly into your bank account. You're pretty much screwed. So that's why it makes me so angry, this type of crime, and I'm very, very keen to work on trying to fight it. The other thing about this type of crime is also something that pisses me off, like many things piss me off, but this actually, this is important, because it's not only the crime itself, but how people will get the card numbers and convert them to cash is what's important. So, and important and easy. So one of the ways they are doing this is they clone your Mac Stripe, they put it on a different card, they print it, they emboss it so it looks legit, and then they will ship it to a country that's predominantly using swipe and signature. So for example, the US. Then they will go to a store that's using this type of payment because, you know, they know where to go basically. And they will buy something expensive or semi-expensive. So for example, $1,000 for a laptop, and then they will go and sell it for $500 on Craigslist or just on the street. That's $500 of cash. So that's one angle. The other angle is obviously using those cards online. And here the problem is that some merchants, especially the one big merchant that went to space, they're not checking the CVV number. The CVV, the security code that you have at the end of your card number, it's not in plain text, stored in plain text on the Magstripe, but it doesn't matter because that mentioned merchant is not checking for it anyway. Neither is checking for a name or address, but that's a different thing. Also, I buy a lot of car parts from the US, and I know that many merchants there, when I'm doing this online, they will just ask for my card number, expiry date, name and address, which they check or not. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Stop doing this because you are enabling crime. You just making it easier for them. But anyway, that's a rant. And this won't change anytime soon. However, how do they actually do this? So because this is a Magstripe, so you just have to record the Magstripe and then decode it. There's no encryption on from the card number and the expiry date anyway. So this is I like to call it a lame attack because it's not as popular as it was some years back. Basically, what happens, you put the reader, the magnetic head, the reading magnetic head in the path of the Magstripe, right? So in this case, it's being put, this reader is being put on the fascia, so on the outside part of the ATM, which is why it was sort of easy to detect it. By wiggling parts, seeing if something falls off, and obviously always accompanied to this reader is a camera somewhere that has a visibility on the pin pad. So the criminals correlate the data, the time data from the card reader and the time data from the camera. They have the card number and the pin. On this still, you can see how it actually looks inside, and the pattern is always the same. So you have your magnetic head here, and then you have three elements that always present. So there's a magnetic card decoder. You have the controller, which is usually Atmega 32, and you have a flash storage. Flash storage is like big gigabytes. Gigabytes. Basically, in terms of card numbers, it's unlimited storage. So that was before. Nowadays, criminals have moved to something more vicious, I would say. They moved to deep insert. So basically, this whole contraption is being put inside the ATM, and the brutal reality is that you, as an ATM user, have no way of detecting it. The ATM operators, the ATM vendors do have methods against this, and nowadays they do work actually, but you as a user have no chance. So this is I will, as with the other videos, I will obviously link it in the show notes. However, I just want to show the stills from it, as the whole newscast is pretty boring. The two important stills is this one. Just show you how the shape is being worked out, has been worked out, and you still have the same elements that you had before on the previous one. You have your magnetic head reader, you have your battery. The battery lasts maybe 1-2 days. And again, on the PCB, which you don't see it as a PCB, but there's a PCB there that's a magnetic head magnetic stripe decoder, the controller, and the flash storage. Again, flash storage is like unlimited, pretty much. And on the other one, on the second one, you can see how thin it is. The card is 0.7 millimeters. This is thinner. So they are managing to put all the electronics, the battery, the card, the magnetic head reader on this piece of metal, and the whole thing is actually thinner than the card. So they just have to come in, snap it in, put it inside, and obviously after some time they have to take it out. So it's like a two-way operation, but it's the same as with the outside one. So it's no different. How do you actually make this? You know, because the shape is quite complex, and this is where I'm coming back to availability of those parts. I don't think anyone would just go and blow up an ATM or take it with a digger to get the card reader, because you can just buy them on eBay, and that's the reality. You need the card reader to work out the shape, work out all the where the things touch, right? You have to work out the actual depth of the device. You cannot do this without having access to a card reader. And again, some would assume that because this is, a secret ATM part, you shouldn't be able to have access to it. But as I talked before many times on this talk, they do, and they actually they are quite sophisticated in working out those details on those deep insets. So, long story short, this is the most advanced hardware attack on an ATM. However, similarly to detecting cash trapping, again, machine learning helps. There are ways to detect those skimmers in time before they actually are being used. So even if they manage to put it in, because preventing that would require hardware change, however, the ATM would shut down. And this will be a loss to the operator, but obviously saves a lot of trouble to the customer. So yeah, we are getting better at this. The vendors are getting better at this, but this is still the most, I would say, sophisticated method of attack on the card data. So that's basically all the time I have been allocated for this topic for my talk today. But I did manage to cover the two most interesting things, most interesting things for me, which is the cash trapping and the card numbers stealing and deep inserts. My goal was to try and show you how the problems that you have to work with or against when you're working on ATM security or basically people's security. It's quite similar to any other law enforcement work, but in many respects it's different. But it's also information security. I treat it as information security because it crosses many fields. However, at the end of the day, we are trying to protect something. And again, not wanting to be cheesy and playing on emotions, but for me, this is trying to help other people, and this is trying to make the world a little bit better any way I can. Thank you very much for watching me. Thank you very much for staying with me for those 40 minutes. And yeah, see you around.
We're going to put on something else and then turn the cam back on for the last 20 minutes.
And weaving things into conspiracy theories. The process diagram is also a good diagram of the attack surface. Every point has attack potential. Obviously, it's better to attack closer to the left side before barcodes are printed, but there are attack opportunities to edit or destroy barcodes later, even after the ballot has been tabulated and stored. Note that some systems perform ballot creation inside one device, while others use separate devices. Position number 2 could represent a USB cable between a tablet and a printer. And some systems combine tabulation and storage into one device, while others, such as central count tabulation, split it up. And some all-in-one hybrid systems contain everything from 1 to 7 inside a single device. There are many ways that we might launch attacks on these areas. I won't spend time explaining them because you've likely heard them elsewhere. They include supply chain attacks, hardware tampering, malware, machine-in-the-middle attacks, and remote access. One important ingredient in many of the attacks we'll look at is access to a printer. Positions 1 through 3 are before printing and have access to that printer. At position 4, usually the ballot is under the voter's control, but there may be an opportunity for poll workers to handle the ballot, or the voter may insert the ballot into a device to verify their selections, as one vendor routinely demonstrates. At position 5, most tabulators do not have a printer, though some may add one to support post-election audits by printing ballot identifiers. Ideally, that printing would be in a different color and restricted to the margins. Most tabulators scan a ballot and drop it into storage immediately, but several all-in-one hybrid machines have a single paper path, so that the cast ballot passes a software-controlled printer at position 6 on the way. And finally, a printer isn't the only way to mark on these ballots. Several print on thermal paper. Applying heat, friction, or scraping will mark on those ballots. You can make a mark by swiping a fingernail across them. And just like with any type of paper ballot, there may be opportunities for manipulation during transport, storage, and post-election audits. The first attack that we'll look at is the most straightforward, printing a different barcode. This is an attack during creation that applies to every type of barcode. It's the strongest attack because the attacker has the most flexibility about what gets printed and has the least chance of detection. A hacked BMD would be the ideal target because the BMD has everything it needs to generate barcodes. That's its regular job. Whereas the printer or a machine-in-the-middle attack would need to know the barcode format, the data structure, and possibly additional data to create ballots that appear authentic and pass any integrity checking measures. If the attacker replaced only the barcode, the voter would have no way of detecting it and would cast the ballot. Or the attacker could create a much better forgery by modifying...
All right, let's catch the last 15 minutes of this.
Since studies show that voters rarely check the text. Either way, it's the barcode that gets counted on election night. Next, we have a replay attack. During creation of a ballot, an attacker takes a barcode that they don't like and they replace it with one that they do
apparently
like.
There's this weird thing in the way.
This is different than printing any barcode because the attacker doesn't have to navigate all the complexities of building a barcode. It's just mimicry of a known valid barcode. One doesn't need to know the structure or any secrets. It just has to know that one barcode is favorable and then recognize unfavorable ones to swap out. But attack number 2 is suitable for printer or machine in the middle attacks at positions 2 and 3, where you may not possess all the information that the BMD has. Next, we'll look at 2 similar attacks together. First, if there's an undervote in a contest where the voter has not voted or has not voted as many votes as they're allowed, the attacker can add.
I have no idea why that weird glitch was happening. Again, we'll have better streaming stuff with this. And now we've ran into this problem. Great. Okay, so let's find a different stream again. This is why I normally don't do stuff like, ideally you'd want to do everything like through the browser element OBS, but you can't do it because the browser element, you actually can't go in and manipulate it. So if you have a thing where you have to click to go past something, you can't do that. That's why we normally stream stuff through browsers, but there's a whole bunch of things with the internet here that I don't even want to get into that will start off flame wars. So here we go. Hopefully this will be fine. This is the Ham Radio Village, and we'll catch the last like 10 minutes of this. Cross your fingers.
And I really like the Tate product. It actually speaks SNMP. It's pretty cool. These here are the Quantar repeaters. These are starting to come out on the market now. These are amazing. They were about a $15,000 base station, brand new, and now they're very affordable on the secondary market. And then even these here on the bottom, these are the GE, or they're the Master 3, Master 4, Master 5 base stations are the current things that are out there from, if you're on the GE side of it. These are great, and they're synthesized. So let's define interference. This is an important concept we have to do, is define interference for amateur radio. And harmful interference is what degrades another spectrum user's communications. Not all interference is harmful. And in amateur radio, we're kind of used to working in the noise. But this isn't really true of repeaters. As I alluded to earlier, ducting and tropo can enhance propagation. We can't really avoid that. So we have to define a normal service area for the repeater. And this is all based on height, ERP, antenna, all comes into play. And so how do we define this for our quote-unquote FB8s? The FCC uses this concept of service contours and then interference contours, and professional engineering. It costs some money to have somebody certify this for you. Research into this has been kind of ongoing empirically since the 1950s. And we have some stuff up on our library there, good compilation of that. EIA-TIA came out with something called TSB88, and it kind of takes all this together, compiles it with a whole bunch of science behind it, and it's a great reference. So in our case here, we have service contours, and this is what's important. Is I think we're pretty much all hams are familiar with what's called the FM capture effect. And in a service contour, you have a given signal strength that'll override any interfering signal in that area if your planning is done right. Using PL tones made this easier in 1970. Still to this day, you have hams that think putting PL on a repeater makes it closed. That's simply not the case. Every radio I've ever bought in my life has had PL in it, and as I said, I've been a ham since 1995, even before that. So we're talking a good amount of time here for amateur radio transceivers to have these functions in them. Now, wideband FM, when I say 16K0F3, that's what's called the emission designator, but that's wideband FM, meaning it's 16 kilohertz wide. You need about 6 to 9 dB for this to work, but the FCC never really took digital into account for this. The TSB88 standard did. And a lot of this is based on TV modeling. So, as you can see here, one of the things we put together was these PL tones. And we have PL tones by region in the state. But again, this is just a suggestion. There's certainly options.
Doing some more cleanup here.
PL tones all the time. We just try to ensure that they're different between co-channel and adjacent channel repeaters. The important thing here is that all repeaters must receive and transmit a tone. If you're not transmitting a tone, if you're only using receive tone on your repeater, your people that are out there mobile will be in carrier squelch, and they'll hear everything else coming in when the band opens up or when the repeater is not keyed up. So TSP88, as I said, is our major rethinking of this service contour kind of model for commercial radio. And what they've done is model each mode that's out there. So FM, Tetra, P25, NXDN, whatever. Model it and taking into account your signal bandwidth, the adjacent signals that are out there, and then receive filters in their radios, you know, and realistically what the radio is able to discern and its selectivity. So they came up with something what's called CPC, or Channel Performance Criteria. And this is a way to define delivered audio quality based on, for example, in this case, SINAD. It's very similar to the telephone system using what's called a MOS, or mean opinion score, if you're familiar with that. So this channel performance criteria says we're trying to give a delivered audio quality of 3.4, which is pretty good quality speech, 20 dB SINAD. You know, it's not 100% perfect, but everybody can hear it and you don't have to repeat. So we model all the interferers based on that number, which is that we want to have a good quality signal all the time. And adjacent users, so this is something that's adjacent to the channel, have to be considered as well, because in several cases the wideband user will actually overlap the other channel, just because of the way that we have some of the 15 kilohertz channels set up in 2 meters. So the first thing we have to do when you're doing TSP88 planning, again, this is the commercial way of doing it, you define your service area that you want to cover. And then you go and you pick where you need to put your sites and what sites you can get and what your signal is going to be in that coverage area. And you break the whole thing up into tiles, you consider each tile, and you then run an analysis on it. But once you have that, you identify a frequency and you model interference per tile, and you make certain that you're not going to interfere with somebody and somebody else isn't going to interfere with you. So this is a whole heck of a lot more complex than an FCC contour, but it does give us a lot more data. It's great though if you're doing, you know, police radio system. You want to know that that radio is going to work everywhere in the central business district or something like that, and everywhere in the city, not just where, you know, it's close to the repeater. So let's take this and apply it to amateur standards and how we can do that. So amateur radio has this problem of, you know, we're doing, again, repeaters, communications at a local scale. You're going to receive one frequency and simultaneously retransmit on another. That's a split. It's going to be located up high. Again, for Florida, we're looking at 100 to 1,000 feet. There's only a handful of repeaters, you know, anywhere near that high in Florida. Obviously, you get out west, you can be up at 6,000 feet without a problem on a lot of mountains. Repeaters have excellent antennas. They have a high output power. And the other problem, though, is they're not easily to move in frequency because they have to receive and transmit at the same time. So you need high isolation between that. That necessitates big filters. And the other problem some older repeaters are going to have is going to be in crystals. Some of these need custom cut crystals for oscillators and things like that. So it's very hard to change frequency later. The need for coordination now. We obviously need this because if you're going to have two repeaters in the same area or a very close channel, you are going to have interference, and harmful interference at that. So being it's hard to change frequency, let's say the coordinator's typically only going to look at the output frequency. The likelihood of two people being on the same input channel causing interference at the same time, being you're only, you know, 6 feet off the ground in average if you're mobile or something like that, it's fairly small. And the signal is going to take up space on the channel known as bandwidth. And it's not always necessarily the same. That's why I point that out there. So we take this and we get an emission designator from it. I won't go through all this, but here's some of the typical codes. And what's nice about it is it gives the bandwidth for 99.5% of the emission. And then, F3, for example, means it's FM. So typical wideband FM is 16K0F3E. And again, channel size. One of the things we're doing right now is moving a lot of the digital stuff that's out there. They need only what's called a narrowband channel. They don't need a full wide channel. They can make a half channel and be just happy there in a lot of cases. So here's what we're using for standard splits and bandwidths in Florida. I won't go through everything because this is going to change. You get out west and repeaters on UHF, for example, they're from what we would say
Be the last instant reward.
high and receive low instead of Florida transmits low, receives high.
That's exactly what I hear. Florida transmitters.
We are working to define this a little bit better. The previous group didn't really have it worked out. And the important thing, though, to understand is if you're going to use a wideband repeater or wideband mode, it's going to occupy 2 narrowband channels. So you can't use either one of those if somebody's using wideband there. And this is one of my favorite slides. This is what I say the legacy of bad decisions on 2 meters here.
Oh, how'd they find our other name?
2 meters has
DCG 21, legacy of bad decisions.
6 megahertz, it's 20 kilohertz. Above is 15. Now, this is different in other states. Again, I'm just speaking to what Florida does. The offsets move back and forth, especially as you get above 146 megahertz. Narrowband makes a 10 kilohertz channel from the 20 kilohertz, which is usable for most digital modes. And then your 15 kilohertz channels make 7.5, which isn't useful for almost anything other than NXDN and maybe D-Star. So the other problem we have with 15 kilohertz channels is you can see here, this is the wideband FM being modulated. It actually occupies much more space than 15 kilohertz. And the advantage to this is, well, we can pack things much closer, and because it's wideband FM, it's not always going to be that wide. It's going to be
so they lied to us.
On average, maybe it's only going to occupy 10 kilohertz, but when somebody's voice
Wideband is not that wide. That means someone lied to us.
Channel. This is the way it's been done. This is the way it's done even on some of the commercial spectrum. So what happens when we put all this together? Well, as you can see here, we have everything.
So, it is 1 minute before the end. I'm going to switch over to the face cam now, because that's going to be, unfortunately, for our stream again. I'm sorry for, we didn't know what channels to go to, and it was basically it was everything was perfectly lined up, and then a stupid thing in the morning hit the domino, and all of them fell over, all at the same time, in order. Bless you. I think that's a great way to end it with that sneeze. I will say that tomorrow we're going to be playing music from the DEFCON 29 soundtrack. We're going to be streaming for even longer. It's going to be, I believe, from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's going to be roughly 5 to 6 hours of straight streaming. We will have all the adulting, unless a meteorite hits this building, done before then. I'm not trying to tempt fate here by saying that. Tonight, if you are in the New York metro area in about an hour, people are going to be meeting at the 875 Atrium. That is on, burpee stuff. 53rd and 53rd Street and 3rd Avenue in Manhattan. And that's going to be the NYC 2600 meeting. And if you are not from the New York metro area, but you go to our Instagram, and we'll make this post on Twitter in a moment because we already have on Instagram, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to go live on our Instagram, and we're going to show kind of what the atrium currently looks like. We might bring some 2600 folks on there, kind of get their perspective of, what it's like to not be involved with all this crazy live streaming all weekend. And then again, we'll be back here at noon or 1 p.m. tomorrow. On our Twitter, we listed the times when we're going to be streaming. We're also going to be listing on all of our social media, and also tomorrow, in addition to watching talks, we're going to be more on the Discord and trying to do various games and check out some of the other villages, and hopefully we'll have a really cool thing to do tomorrow for the EFF, and also hopefully we'll have a really cool thing tomorrow to do for what do you call it, for Sunday, because we're going to make an announcement later on tonight and then repeat it again on Saturday and Sunday morning of what we want to do, particularly for our Sunday stream. It's right into Master of Unlocking, and that's all the crazy streaming we'll be doing. So thank you for all watching. If you are on Twitch right now, stay tuned, because we're about to raid one of the newest DEFCON villages that's currently streaming right now. And I will also say throughout the next couple of hours, we are going to be constantly switching between the different villages and main DEFCON tracks and some of the other people who are at DEFCON who are streaming right now in person or even virtually. And starting at, I believe, either 10 or 11 p.m. our time, Eastern Standard Time, we're going to stream the entirety of GothCon. And we're actually going to try to leave with some industrial free copyright music sort of thing, so as like a tribute to that. So if you like dark industrial, like hacking stuff, like if you are more Matrix and less and way less Ready Player One and or Tron, if you're old enough to remember that, this is going to be your type of music. So that's basically it for our stream. I'm Sidepock. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201. You can check us out at let me do these links real quick. You can check us out. Boop, there we go. At defcon201.org. That's the website that Saracel has built for us. It's really awesome. And if you want to know all of our social media, such as Twitter at defcon201nj, as well as our Instagram at defcon201, our Mastodon instance, our .onion instance and stuff, here is a link tree with everything in it. So I'll leave off with Hack the Planet, Dirty Jersey Represent. If you're on Twitch, stay tuned for rating another stream tomorrow. If you're on D Live, that's Saturday and Sundays when we're going to do the lemons. Right at 6 p.m. each of those times. And remember, today was nuts, so tomorrow will hopefully be better. Peace out, everyone. Enjoy the music and say hi to the DEFCON village we're raiding. They're a new village, and they have awesome stuff this year, so I hope you enjoy. Enjoy DEFCON. See you on the Discord and everything. Peace. Why is everything lagging now? Here